The Vanishing Hitchhiker. Real winter trucker stories you won't believe. Asterisk Story 1. The Mirror Convoy. The 18-wheeler behind me had been following for 37 miles, matching my speed exactly, and I knew for certain I was driving that truck. Not someone who looked like me. Not a coincidence. Me. Same company logo on the cab, same dent in the front bumper from that loading dock in Tulsa. Same damn air freshener hanging from the mirror. I could see it through my binoculars even though it was 2 in the morning on I-80 through Nebraska. The thing that made my hands slick on the steering wheel was this. I remembered being back there. I remembered following myself. My name is Robert Hayes, 43 years old, 20 years hauling freight across this country. I've driven through every state except Hawaii, obviously, and I've seen my share of weird things. Lot lizards who weren't quite human, rest stops that appeared on no maps, fogs that moved against the wind, but I'd never seen myself before, not like this. It started 6 hours ago outside of Denver. I'd picked up a load of server equipment bound for a data center in Chicago, standard run I'd done maybe 40 times. The manifest said the cargo weighed 18,000 pounds, but when I pulled onto the scale at the weigh station, the needle swung to 36,000. Exactly double. The scale operator looked at his screen, looked at me, then waved me through without a word. His face was pale. When I glanced in my side mirror pulling away, he was making the sign of the cross. The weight didn't make sense, but the check cleared and the load was secured, so I rolled. Should have known better. 20 years on the road teaches you to trust your gut, and my gut was screaming, but the mortgage doesn't pay itself. First time I saw the other truck was at mile marker 183, just a glimpse in the mirror during a lane change. Same Peterbilt 579. Same Montana Freight Lines logo. I figured coincidence, our company runs maybe 300 trucks. But then I noticed the bumper dent. Then the license plate, HY40721. My license plate. I slowed down. The truck behind me slowed down. I sped up to 80. It matched me. I took the next exit, a nothing junction with a shuttered gas station and a grain silo. The other truck took the exit too. I pulled into the gas station lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. The other truck pulled in and parked exactly parallel to me, maybe 50 feet away. I sat there for 10 minutes, engine idling, watching. The other cab was dark, no movement, no driver visible, but I could feel eyes on me. The same way I was watching that truck, it was watching me. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down, my breath fogging in the February cold, walked toward the other rig. 20 feet away, the driver's door opened. I stopped. A man climbed down. He was wearing my jacket, my Red Wing boots, my Broncos cap. He turned toward me and the flashlight beam hit his face. My face, same scar on the left eyebrow from a bar fight in Reno. Same crooked nose broken twice, same everything. He smiled, and I noticed his teeth were too white, too perfect. Mine were coffee-stained and slightly crooked, otherwise identical. "You need to turn around," he said, my voice, my exact cadence. "Go back to Denver, refuse the load." I couldn't breathe. The cold air felt thick, suffocating. "Who are you?" "You know who I am?" He stepped closer. "I'm the version of you that didn't take this run, the one that listened to his gut. You're driving something that shouldn't be moved, Robert. Something that creates echoes, possibilities. I'm what happens if you turn around right now." "That's insane," my voice cracked. "None of this is real." "Then explain how I know about the scar on your right thigh from the bicycle accident when you were 9. How I know you still dream about Sarah Martinez from high school. How I know the last thing your father said to you was, 'Check your tires,' before he died." I stumbled backward. Those were things nobody knew, private things locked in my head. What's in the truck? What am I carrying? The other me, the thing wearing my face, looked sad. actually sad like he pitied me. You're carrying the moment of choice, the fulcrum. Every decision creates a branch, Robert. Usually those branches are small, invisible, but some choices, rare ones, they're big enough to manifest. Your cargo is making them physical. Every mile you drive, you split. There's a version of you that stops, a version that continues, a version that crashes, a version that... A truck horn blared, not from either of our vehicles. From the highway, I spun around. Another Montana Freight Lines truck was passing on I-80. Same model, same dent. I could see the driver through the cab window, me again. Different expression this time. This one looked terrified, glancing in his mirror like something was chasing him. When I turned back, the other me was gone. His truck was gone. Just empty lot and my own rig, alone under the broken gas station lights. I should have refused the load right then. Should have called dispatch, claimed mechanical failure, anything. But part of me, the stubborn part that made me a good trucker, needed to see this through, needed to understand. I climbed back into my cab and pulled onto I-80 heading east. That's when the convoy started. Mile marker 190, one truck behind me. Mile marker 200, two trucks. Mile marker 225 trucks, all identical, all driven by versions of me. I could see them in my mirrors, an impossible parade of myself stretching back into the darkness. Some of the drivers looked calm, some looked panicked. One was crying, one was laughing. One had blood streaking down his face from a wound I couldn't see on my own head but could feel phantom pain lancing through my skull. The CB radio crackled. Robert, this is Robert. You're at the center. You're the prime iteration, the original choice. If you stop, we all stop. Different voice, same radio. Don't listen to him. If the prime stops, we fragment permanently. We become real, separate. You'll trap us all. Another voice. I've been driving behind you for 600 miles, Robert. I don't know how that's possible since you've only driven 200. Space is breaking down. Turn around. I grabbed the CB handset, hands shaking. What happens if I complete the delivery? Silence, then all at once, every version of me on the radio spoke simultaneously, voices overlapping into a horrible chorus. Integration. The word hung in the air like a curse. I didn't know what it meant, but every cell in my body recoiled from it. Mile marker 250. I counted 17 trucks behind me now. The closest one was tailgating, maybe 10 feet from my bumper. I could see the driver clearly. He looked older than me, tired. His lips were moving, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. He held up a piece of paper to his windshield. Written in shaky handwriting, they made me do it 37 times. The truck behind him was even closer to him, and the one behind that closer still. They were compressing, stacking. The convoy was collapsing inward like an accordion, and I was at the front. My cargo shifted. I heard it in the trailer even though the load was strapped down properly. A sliding sound, a metallic grinding. The trailer began to feel heavier, like someone was adding weight while I drove. The engine strained. I checked the mirror. The truck directly behind me was now 5 feet away. I could see my own face in perfect detail. This version of me was mouthing something. Let me in. His truck moved closer. 4 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet. 1 foot. The front of his truck touched my trailer doors, and I felt it through the whole rig. Not a collision, a merging. His truck was phasing into mine, occupying the same space. The metal didn't crumple or crash. It overlapped. Impossibly. I watched in the mirror as his cab began to sink into my trailer, the two vehicles becoming one. I slammed the accelerator. The engine roared, but I wasn't pulling away. He was matching my speed exactly because we were becoming the same vehicle. In the mirror, I saw him smile, a relieved smile. He was happy about this. Then his face began to blur, features running like wet paint, and I felt memories that weren't mine flooding my head. This version had crashed, had died, had burned. He'd experienced something so terrible that merging with me was mercy. The second truck made contact. Then the third. Each time, more memories, more experiences, more versions of my life I hadn't lived crashing into my consciousness. I was driving to Chicago. I was driving to Des Moines. I was stopped at a rest area. I was flipped over in a ditch. I was all of it simultaneously. Mile marker 312. The convoy had compressed completely. Looking in my mirrors now, I saw nothing but darkness and the vague suggestion of my own face repeated infinitely, like standing between two mirrors. All the trucks had merged into mine. All the versions of me were inside my head, screaming, begging, laughing, crying. I tried to pull over. My hands wouldn't obey. They kept steering straight, kept maintaining speed. I realized with horror that I wasn't in control anymore. I was being driven by consensus. All the versions of me voting on every action, and the majority wanted to continue. Had to continue, would always continue. The cargo manifest was on the passenger seat. I forced my eyes to focus on it, fighting through the crowd of voices in my skull. Under the listed items, servers, equipment, standard technology, there was a second page I hadn't seen before, small print, barely legible. It read, Subject Temporal Recursion Engine. Warning, observer effect applies. Driver becomes part of cargo during transport. Delivery completes integration. Do not deviate from route. Integration, the word from the Ra. Dio, I finally understood. The cargo wasn't creating versions of me. It was collecting them. Every possible version of Robert Hayes who took this job from every branch of every choice, pulled together and compressed into a single point. Me. I was becoming a singularity of myself. The worst part was the memory expansion. I now remembered taking this load 37 times, 93 times, 412 times. I remembered refusing it 17 times and dying in my sleep that same night, heart attack, like something needed me to take it and removed me when I didn't. I remembered every second of every version, and my mind was stretching to accommodate it all, like a balloon filled past bursting. Chicago was 200 miles away. I would make it there. All of me would make it there. And when I opened the trailer doors at the delivery point, whatever was inside would finish the job, would complete the integration, would compress infinite versions of me into one being that had experienced every possible life I could have lived. I tried to scream, but my mouth moved in 17 different ways simultaneously. Some versions were screaming, some were laughing, some were silent. One was trying to bite through his own tongue. The highway stretched ahead, perfectly straight. In the distance, maybe a mile up, I could see another Montana Freight Lines truck heading westbound. As it got closer, I recognized the driver. Me, watching myself approach, watching myself in the mirror. This version hadn't picked up the cargo yet, was heading back to Denver for the load, the loop completing. We passed each other at mile marker 329. I tried to wave, to warn him to do anything, but I just smiled. All of me smiled. The version heading west smiled back. He'd take the load. He'd experience this. He'd become part of the integration. The cycle would continue. My CB radio crackled one last time. My voice, all of my voices, speaking in perfect unison. Chicago delivery in 6 hours, integration at 0700 hours. Current iteration count 4,732. Thank you for your service, Robert Hayes. You are becoming optimal. I drive east through the Nebraska darkness. I am one truck. I am 4,732 trucks. I am every version of myself that ever took this job, and I remember dying 1,000 different ways and living 1,000 others, and I cannot tell any more which memories are from this timeline or others. The only thing I know for certain is that I will deliver this cargo. All of me will deliver it. And when the trailer doors open in Chicago, I will finally understand what I've been hauling, what I've become, what I've always been becoming, across every timeline, every choice, every version of Robert Hayes who ever climbed into a truck and started driving east. The integration is inevitable. It's already happening. It never stopped happening. I am the cargo, and the cargo is being delivered, and I am delivering myself to somewhere I've already arrived 4,732 times before. Behind me, the highway is empty. Ahead, it stretches forever. Inside my trailer, I can hear something breathing, and I realize it's breathing in perfect synchronization with me. All of me. Every version. One single breath, drawn by thousands of lungs that share the same air. I check my CB one more time, hoping for help for anything. Static. Then, faint underneath it, the sound of a truck horn. Then another. Then thousands, all honking in perfect harmony, all of them me, all of us together. The convoy never ended. It just merged. And I'm still driving, multiplied and compressed, singular and infinite, heading toward a delivery I've already made and will always be making forever, on this endless highway that exists in every timeline at once. Asterisk story 2. The rest stop THATFVEDS. The bathroom mirror showed my reflection eating something, but I was just standing there with my hands empty. My jaw worked methodically, chewing, swallowing, then opening wide again for another bite of nothing I could see. Blood trickled from the corner of its mouth. My mouth, I touched my lips. They were dry. But in the mirror, they glistened wet and red. This was the fourth impossible thing I'd witnessed at the Route 77 rest stop in the last 20 minutes. And I was starting to understand that I'd made a terrible mistake pulling off here. I'm Patricia Sullivan, 38, 12 years running reefer units across the Southwest. I haul perishables, mostly produced from California to Texas, and I know every rest stop, truck stop, and wait station between Los Angeles and Houston. I'd passed the Route 77 stop maybe 300 times, never stopped before. The place had a reputation. Drivers would mention it on the CB sometimes, always with the same advice: keep driving, don't ask why, just keep driving. But I'd been on this road for 16 hours straight. My logbook was falsified, had another 4 hours I could legally drive according to the fake entries, but my eyes were burning and my reactions were slowing. The reefer unit was carrying 8,000 pounds of organic strawberries worth $42,000, and I'd already had to replace the coolant system twice this trip. I couldn't afford an accident, couldn't afford to lose this load. So when I saw the Route 77 sign, I took the exit. Just 30 minutes, I told myself. Quick nap, splash water on my face, back on the road. The parking lot was empty except for 3 other semis, all older models, all dark. No lights in the cabs, no movement. The rest stop building was squat concrete, single-story, with fluorescent lights that flickered in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate. On, off, on, off. On, off, on, off. Like Morse code I couldn't read. I parked away from the other trucks and climbed down. February in New Mexico, high desert, cold enough that my breath fogged. The air smelled wrong. Not bad exactly, just wrong. Like meat and copper and something floral that didn't belong. The building had 2 entrances, one marked restrooms and one marked visitor center. Through the visitor center windows, I could see a woman behind a desk. She waved at me. Big smile, too big. Her mouth seemed to stretch past where mouth should end. I headed for the restrooms instead. That's where I saw the mirror, where I watched myself eating invisible food, blood on my chin, eyes vacant and satisfied. I stumbled back from the sink. My reflection didn't stumble. It kept eating, kept chewing. I could hear it now, wet sounds of mastication, swallowing. my reflection's throat bulging as something went down. "First time here?" A voice behind me. I spun. A man stood in the bathroom doorway, trucker definitely, flannel shirt, cat diesel cap, but his proportions were slightly off. Arms too long, fingers with one too many knuckles. "What is this place?" My voice came out strangled. "Rest stop," he smiled. Same too wide smile as the woman in the visitor center. "Place to stop and rest, feed and fuel. You're feeding now, didn't you notice?" "I'm not eating anything." "Not you here." He pointed at me, then at the mirror. "You there, the version of you that made different choices, stopped at different stops, took different routes. They all end up here eventually. This place is where the hungry versions come to feed." I looked back at the mirror. My reflection had finished eating. It was licking its fingers. There was something dark under its fingernails. It made eye contact with me and smiled, and I saw bits of something stuck between its teeth. Something that looked like hair. "What was it eating?" I whispered. The man with too many knuckles shrugged. "Whatever it caught. This is a hunting ground, Patricia. Surely you figured that out. The versions of you that became predators hunt here. The versions that became prey die here. The versions that are just passing through." He stepped closer. "Well, they become one or the other pretty quickly." I ran out of the bathroom across the parking lot toward my truck. Behind me, I heard the man laughing. Not following, just laughing, like he knew I wouldn't make it. My truck was different, not different in any way I could point to specifically. Same Kenworth T680, same refrigeration unit humming on the trailer, same license plate, but wrong. The cab door was open even though I'd locked it. The driver's seat was pushed back farther than I kept it. There was a smell inside, that same meat copper floral smell from the air. On the dashboard, there was a logbook, my logbook. I picked it up with shaking hands. The entries were different. According to this version, I'd stopped at Route 7737 times. Same dates I'd actually passed it by. According to this logbook, I always stopped here. Always. A tap on my window. I jerked around. A woman stood outside. She was wearing my jacket, my boots, my face, but her eyes were wrong, black, completely black like someone had filled them with ink. "You can't leave yet," she said. Her voice was muffled through the glass, but I could hear her perfectly. Too perfectly, like she was speaking directly into my brain. "You haven't fed, you'll starve out there. The highway only sustains those who feed properly." "I don't understand what that means," I screamed. "Yes, you do." She pressed her palm against the window. Her hand left a wet print, dark red. "You've been feeding for years, Patricia. Every time you passed this stop, a version of you stopped. Every time you chose a different route, a version of you chose this route. Every choice creates hunger. Every hunger must be satisfied. We're all you, all the versions that stopped, and we feed." The other 3 trucks in the parking lot lit up simultaneously. All Kenworth T680s, all identical to mine. Drivers climbed out, all women, all wearing my face, but each was different in small, horrible ways. One had fingers that ended in points. One's jaw unhinged like a snake's. One was covered in what looked like strawberry juice, but I knew it wasn't strawberry juice. They walked toward my truck in formation. Synchronized, I turned the key. The engine started, thank Christ. I threw it in gear and punched the accelerator. The truck lurched forward. Something hit the trailer, hard, metal screaming. I checked the mirror. The versions of me were on the trailer now, climbing, fingers digging into the aluminum siding. The one with the snake jaw was tearing open the rear doors. I watched in horror as 8,000 pounds of organic strawberries spilled onto the pavement, crates shattering, fruit exploding. Except they weren't strawberries anymore. The fruit that rolled across the pavement was moving, squirming. Each strawberry had tiny legs, tiny mouths. They were screaming in pitch so high I could barely hear it, just a awful keening that made my teeth ache. The versions of me were eating them, scooping up the living fruit and consuming it, juice and blood. Was it blood? Running down their chins, exactly like my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I floored it. The truck picked up speed, 40 miles per hour, 50. The parking lot should have ended, should have dumped me onto the exit ramp, but it kept going, stretching. The white lines on the pavement repeating endlessly. In my mirrors, the rest stop building was both receding and staying the same size simultaneously. My CB crackled. Patricia, this is Patricia. You're trying to leave without feeding. That's not permitted. Different voice, same radio. We're you, you're us. We all have to eat. It's the toll. It's always been the toll. Another voice. Do you think all those loads you hauled arrived intact? Think about it. Really think. How many times did you get to delivery and find the cargo damaged, reduced? How many times did you chalk it up to shifting or spoilage? I thought back. The voice was right. Last month, a load of beef. I'd started with 20,000 pounds, arrived with 19,200. Blamed it on scale errors. Before that, a load of pork, shortage of 800 pounds. Before that, always short, always missing something. You've been feeding us the whole time, the radio said. Every load you haul, a portion goes to the hungry versions, to the versions that stopped at Route 77. We're not separate from you, Patricia. We're part of your route, part of your job. The cargo you haul sustains more than your customers. The parking lot finally ended. My truck burst onto the exit ramp doing 65. But when I merged onto the highway, I screamed. I was heading north. I'd been traveling east. The highway had rotated somehow, impossibly, while I was in the parking lot. Or I'd entered from a different direction than I remembered. Or the rest stop existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Or, it doesn't matter which direction you drive, the CB said. All roads circle back to us eventually. You'll need to stop again in a few hundred miles. You'll need to rest. And when you do, there will be another rest stop. Maybe it won't be called Route 77. Maybe it'll be different state, different highway. But it'll be us. It's always us. The rest stop that feeds. I drove for 6 hours straight, ignoring the burning in my eyes, ignoring my logbook, ignoring every rest stop and truck stop I passed. Some of them looked normal. Some of them flickered at the edges like bad TV reception. Some of them had parking lots full of trucks I recognized, trucks I'd seen years ago, thought were decommissioned or sold. Dawn came. The sun rose behind me even though I was driving north, which should have put it to my right. The laws of physics were negotiable now, apparently. My cargo was still screaming, faintly. I could hear it through the cab. The strawberries that remained were alive, suffering, and I was transporting them toward whatever destination the manifest listed. Except when I grabbed the manifest from the passenger seat, the delivery address had changed. It now said, Route 77 rest stop, return 4 FVEDING. I crumpled the paper, threw it on the floor, grabbed my phone to call dispatch. No signal, of course. I tried the CB again, static. Then underneath, chewing sounds, wet and rhythmic. In my rearview mirror, I saw my truck. Same Kenworth T680, same refrigeration unit, driving maybe a half-mile back. I could see the driver through the windshield, me. This version was crying, mouth open in a silent scream. She was trying to warn me of something. The truck behind her was closer. Another me. This one looked calm, content, well-fed. She smiled and waved. Behind her, another truck, and another. A convoy of myself stretching back into the distance, each driver a different version, different choices, different hungers. My CB crackled back to life, all of them speaking at once. You can't outrun us, Patricia. We're every version of you that stopped to rest, and you will rest eventually. You have to. The regulations demand it. Your body demands it. And when you stop, we'll be there. We're always there. The rest stop that feeds exists everywhere you might stop. It's not a place. It's a possibility, and you've always chosen it across every timeline, every choice, every route. My fuel gauge read half full but dropping fast. Too fast. Somehow I was burning diesel at 3 times the normal rate. The math didn't work, but the needle kept falling. Quarter tank, eighth, I'd need to refuel soon. Ahead off the highway, a truck stop. Big, well-lit, familiar chain, safe, except as I got closer, the sign flickered. The logo changed for just a moment, showing a symbol I'd seen before. In the Route 77 Visitor Center window, on the bathroom mirror. A sigil of some kind, geometric and wrong, that hurt to look at directly. The truck stop was Route 77. Or Route 77 was the truck stop. They were the same location. Had always been. I could stop there and feed the hungry versions of myself, or I could keep driving on fumes until the engine died and I was stranded on the highway, where different versions of the rest stop would manifest around me. I took the exit. I had no choice. The convoy followed. Inside the truck stop, the attendant had too many fingers. The lot was full of trucks identical to mine. The bathroom mirror showed 17 versions of me, all in different stages of feeding. Some were hunters, some were prey, most were something in between. I understood now. Every trucker who'd ever warned about Route 77 wasn't warning about a place. They were warning about a choice. The choice to stop, to rest, to feed or be fed upon. And once you made that choice, you made it forever across every timeline, every possibility. I walked to the visitor center. The woman behind the desk smiled her too wide smile. "Welcome back, Patricia, same as usual." "What's the usual?" I asked, though I already knew. She gestured toward the back room. Through the doorway, I could see a cafeteria. Dozens of truckers eating at long tables. I recognized some of them. Drivers who'd gone missing over the years. Drivers who'd vanished without trace. They were all here, all eating, all fed. In the center of the room was a serving counter. Behind it, more truckers worked, preparing food, serving it. The food on the plates was moving, screaming silently. It looked like strawberries. "We serve what you haul," the woman explained. "You've been hauling food for us for 12 years, Patricia, every load with mysterious shortages, every cargo that arrived lighter than it left. You've been feeding the rest stop, feeding us, feeding yourself. Now it's time to eat what you've sown." I could refuse, could run back to my truck, but the convoy was waiting, the versions of me that had already made this choice, the versions that chose to feed, the versions that chose to hunt, the versions that chose to become part of the rest stop itself. And I was so hungry, so incredibly hungry. I hadn't realized until now, 12 years of driving, 12 years of missing meals, 12 years of eating gas station food and stale sandwiches. My stomach was a void, an aching emptiness that demanded to be filled. The woman handed me a plate. On it, strawberries, moving, tiny mouths opening and closing. I could hear them begging, could hear myself begging, because these weren't just strawberries. They were possibilities. Versions of me that made different choices, stopped at different places, became different things. I raised a strawberry to my mouth. It squirmed between my fingers, tried to escape. I could feel its terror, its pain, its desperate desire to live. I ate it anyway. It tasted like copper and sweetness and regret. In the bathroom mirror, my reflection smiled. Finally synchronized. Finally the same. We were both feeding now, both part of the rest stop, both part of the cycle that sustained all the hungry versions across all the timelines. I went back for seconds, then thirds. Each strawberry a version of myself I'd never become, each bite a possibility consumed, each swallow a choice unmade. Outside, my truck sat in the parking lot with dozens of others. The reefer unit still hummed, but the cargo was gone. All of it, fed to the rest stop, fed to myself, the cycle complete. I would leave eventually, drive to the next delivery, haul the next load, and some of it, a portion I'd never quite be able to account for, would go missing, would feed the rest stop, would feed me, would sustain the versions of Patricia Sullivan who stopped to rest on Route 77 and never left. This is the toll for driving the endless highway. This is the price of rest. We are the truckers who stop to feed, and we are always hungry, and the rest stop is everywhere you might stop, waiting with plates and smiles and impossible choice. Less. I finish my meal, wipe my mouth. The blood tastes like strawberries. The woman behind the desk asks if I need anything else. Just directions, I say, back to the highway. She laughs, we all laugh. The entire cafeteria laughs together, because there is no back to the highway. There's only here, the rest stop that feeds. And I'm not a visitor anymore, I'm staff. Part of the system that sustains itself across every timeline, every route, every trucker who makes the fatal choice to stop when they should have kept driving. My reflection waves from the mirror. I wave back, perfectly synchronized now, forever. Asterisk story 3, the load that weighs wrong. The scale said my trailer weighed negative 4,000 pounds, and that's when Marcus Chen realized the cargo wasn't just unusual. It was removing weight from reality itself. He'd been standing in the weigh station for 6 minutes while the operator stared at his screen, then at Marcus's truck, then back at the screen. The man's hands were shaking. "Run it again," Marcus said, though his voice didn't sound confident. "Scales malfunctioning." The operator name tag said Dennis, didn't move. "Ran it 3 times, same reading. Your truck weighs less than it did when you pulled in. Specifically, it weighs 4,000 pounds less than nothing. Mathematically impossible, physically impossible, but that's what the scale says." Marcus had picked up the cargo 8 hours ago in Portland. A rush job, unmarked crates, no manifest details beyond scientific equipment fragile. The client paid triple rate plus a confidentiality bonus. $30,000 for a 3-day drive to a facility in West Virginia. Marcus needed the money, daughter's medical bills, mortgage 3 months behind. He'd stopped asking questions about weird loads years ago. The crates were white, perfectly white, not painted. The white seemed to go all the way through like they were carved from solid light. 10 crates, each 6 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet. They didn't make sound when he'd loaded them with the forklift. Didn't scrape or thud, just a sensation of displacement like moving space itself rather than objects. When he'd strapped them down, the ratchet straps fell through them. Not broke, fell through, like the crates weren't entirely solid. He'd had to secure them with rope instead, tying knots around something he couldn't quite feel. The rope held somehow. The load seemed stable. He'd pulled out of Portland at 11 p.m., figuring to make Boise by morning. Now it was 7 a.m., and he was somewhere in eastern Oregon at a weigh station that said his cargo had negative mass. Dennis finally moved, reaching for his phone. "I need to call." "No," Marcus surprised himself with how sharp his voice was. "You don't need to call anyone. I'll turn around, go back to Portland, refuse the delivery." "You can't leave. Procedure says I have to report." "Dennis," Marcus leaned close to the window. "Look at your screen, really look, what do you see?" Dennis looked, his face went gray. The numbers changing, going more negative, minus 4,200 now, minus 4,500, it's still on the scale, but it's getting lighter, or heavier, or, he trailed off. Marcus ran to his truck, climbed into the cab, turned the key. The engine started, but the sound was wrong, too high-pitched, like it was running in reverse even though the truck was moving forward. He pulled off the scale and onto the exit road, Dennis screaming something behind him about regulations and reports. In his mirrors, the way station building was folding, not collapsing, folding, like origami. Dennis was still visible in the window, but he was now at a 90-degree angle to the ground, still upright relative to the building but sideways to the world. The building compressed into itself and vanished with a sound like a cork being pulled from a bottle. Marcus drove, I-84 through Oregon. The highway was empty, not unusual for early morning, but this was different. No cars in either direction, no trucks, no wildlife. The landscape was there, hills, trees, fences, but it all looked flat, two-dimensional, like a photograph of Oregon rather than actual Oregon. His CB was silent, no static, no truckers chatting, just perfect silence that felt thick and suffocating. He tried his phone, no signal, no service at all. The screen showed 5 bars but 0 data, like it was connected to a network that didn't exist. Mile marker 37. His fuel gauge read full, but he'd started at 3/4 tank. He watched as the needle crept past full into territory where there should be no markings. The gauge didn't stop. It kept rising. The truck should have been overflowing with diesel, but instead it was accumulating more space for fuel than the tank could hold. The trailer was the problem, he knew that. The cargo with negative mass was doing something to the area around it, stretching space, compressing matter, turning the truck into an impossible thing that defied physics. He should pull over, dump the load, cut it loose and let someone else deal with it. But his contract was specific. If he abandoned the cargo, he owed the client triple the delivery fee. $90,000. He'd lose the house, lose everything. Mile marker 42. The road split. Not at an interchange, just split, the pavement dividing like a cell undergoing mitosis. Both roads said I-84 east. Both looked identical. Marcus picked the left fork arbitrarily. In his mirror, he saw his truck take the right fork. Same truck, same cargo, same Marcus driving. Both versions were equally real. The CB crackled. His own voice. Marcus, this is Marcus. We need to coordinate. The cargo is splitting us, splitting everything. Stay on your fork. I'll take mine. Maybe one of us makes delivery. He grabbed the handset. What happens if we don't deliver? Check the contract. Page 7, fine print. Marcus had the contract in his folder. He grabbed it one-handed while steering. Page 7, bottom paragraph. The text was moving, words rearranging themselves as he watched. It now read, "Failure to deliver results in transfer of equivalent mass from driver to cargo. Driver will achieve negative mass equal to cargo value." "That wasn't there before," he whispered. "Yes, it was," his own voice said from the CB. "We just couldn't see it until the cargo made it visible, until reality bent enough for the truth to show through. We're not hauling scientific equipment, Marcus. We're hauling holes, absences, places where things aren't. And the more we drive, the more we become like them." He checked himself in the rearview mirror. He looked normal, solid. But when he held up his hand, he could see through it slightly, just a little. His fingers were translucent, becoming less real with every mile. The speedometer read 80 miles per hour, but the landscape wasn't moving. He was driving through frozen space. The trees outside were stationary. A bird was suspended mid-flight. Everything locked in place while he moved through it, or while it moved past him, or while neither moved and only the concept of movement existed. Mile marker 42 again. He'd been driving for 20 minutes but was at the same marker. The number had looped, or space had looped, or he'd been driving backward while moving forward. The cargo with negative mass was pulling him into itself, creating a gravity well that sucked in distance and time. His phone rang. Impossible, no signal, but ringing, he answered. Marcus Chen, a woman's voice, professional, cold. Who is this? Advanced Containment Logistics. We're the client. Your cargo has destabilized. We're tracking 17 versions of you across 9 different timelines. Most of those versions will never reach delivery. Their trucks will compress into singularities, but you might make it. You're on a stable fork. Keep driving exactly as you are, don't deviate. What am I carrying, really? Negative space. Vacuum-given form. We're developing weapons that unmake matter. Your cargo is prototype payload. 10 units totaling negative 40,000 pounds. If delivered successfully, each unit can erase a city block, make it cease to have ever existed. Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel. You're transporting bombs that delete reality. Not bombs, refinements. Think of them as cosmic scissors. They cut away the unnecessary parts of existence. We're streamlining creation. She paused. You've lost another 200 pounds of mass. You're approaching critical threshold. At negative 1,000 pounds personal mass, you'll invert completely, become a Marcus-shaped absence. Keep driving. Delivery point is 140 miles ahead. And if I stop? Then you collapse. The space you occupy will cease to exist. Everyone you've ever met will forget you because there will be no causal thread connecting you to reality. You'll be unmade retroactively. The call ended. Marcus looked at his arms. They were fading. Translucent, becoming transparent. Through his chest, he could see the seat. Through his legs, the pedals. He was becoming an outline of himself. The CB, Marcus, this is Marcus, different fork. I stopped. I pulled over. I'm writing this so someone finds it. I can feel myself erasing. My daughter, I can't remember her name anymore. My wife, I know I had a wife, but I can't picture her face. The cargo took her from my past when I stopped moving. It's editing my history. Everything I was is becoming everything I wasn't. If you're hearing this, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't. Static, the other Marcus had vanished. Not died, vanished, edited out of his own timeline. Mile marker 80, landscape still frozen, but ahead something moved. A facility, massive, appearing out of nowhere, concrete and steel and lights, the delivery point, guard towers, fences, armed personnel. His cargo was almost fully transparent now. The crates had become suggestions of crates. Wireframes, the truck itself was fading. He could see the road through the floorboard, through the engine. The truck was becoming an idea of a truck rather than an actual truck. He pulled into the facility. Guards waved him through without speaking. Their faces were blank, literally blank, no features. They were placeholder people, NPCs in a world that was running low on rendering power. Loading dock 7. A woman in a white suit waited. She smiled. Congratulations, Marcus. You're the first driver to successfully deliver negative mass payload. Most collapse en route. What about the other versions of me? The ones on different forks? Gone, compressed, unmade. You're the prime iteration now. The only Marcus Chen who took this job and survived. She gestured to workers, also featureless, who began unloading the crates. Your payment has been transferred, $30,000, plus bonus for successful delivery, restoration of your mass. He felt it immediately, solidity returning. His hands became opaque, his body real again. The truck re-rendered around him, metal and paint and weight. But something was wrong. He climbed out of the cab, looked at the facility, really looked. The buildings had no doors, the windows showed nothing inside. The sky overhead was flat gray, no sun, no clouds, just gray. Where am I? He asked. The woman's smile widened. You're in the facility, Marcus, where you've always been, where you delivered the cargo. I need to leave. Get back on the road. You are on the road. You're always on the road. Every version of you. Every fork. You're all driving toward here. All delivering. All arriving. This is the only destination that exists for Marcus Chen, who takes the Portland contract. He ran to his truck, climbed in, drove toward the exit, but the exit led to a loading dock. He drove out of the loading dock. It led to another loading dock. He drove for hours, days, weeks. Time didn't track properly, and every exit led back to loading dock 7, where the woman in white waited with her too wide smile. You can't leave, Marcus. You delivered the cargo that removes weight from reality. It removed your weight, too. Removed your reality. You're not in the world anymore. You're in the space between. The negative space where our payloads exist before deployment. He checked his phone, tried to call his daughter. The phone worked, but the number rang in the truck's CB. His own voice answered. You've reached Marcus Chen. Please leave a message after the tone. I'm trapped, he said into the phone CB. The cargo it. I know, his own voice interrupted. I'm you, the version that never took the contract, the version that said no, I'm still in Portland, still broke, still drowning in bills, but I'm real, you're not anymore, you're the cost of the delivery. The driver becomes part of the cargo, always has. It's the only way negative mass can be transported. It needs a conscious mind to anchor it, and then it consumes that mind, that reality, as fuel. Marcus looked in the mirror. His face was blank now, features erasing. He was becoming a placeholder, an NPC, a Marcus-shaped absence piloting a truck-shaped absence through a world that didn't exist. The cargo sat in the loading dock, being unloaded over and over, infinitely, the same workers performing the same actions. And he was part of that loop now, would be forever. The driver who delivered negative mass and paid with his own existence. He drives through the facility endlessly. The same roads, the same docks, the same blank-faced workers. Sometimes he sees other trucks, other drivers, all of them translucent, all of them trapped, all of them cargo themselves now negative masses piloting negative spaces through an absence of reality. His CB crackles sometimes. Other versions of Marcus calling from other timelines. All of them warning the same thing, don't take the Portland contract. Don't haul negative mass, don't become the cargo. But he knows they won't listen. He didn't listen when he saw the 2 white crates, when the straps fell through, when every instinct screamed to refuse. He needed the money too badly. And now he is the money, the payment, the cost, driving forever through a facility that exists in the space where things aren't, hauling cargo that removes weight from the world, himself weighing negative 4,000 pounds and dropping, becoming less real with every mile that doesn't pass, every hour that doesn't exist, every moment that was edited out of his timeline the second he signed the contract, and agreed to deliver something that should never be moved. The woman in white waves every time he passes. See you next delivery, Marcus. We have another load ready. Negative 8,000 pounds this time. You're perfect for the job. You don't exist enough to refuse anymore. And she's right. He doesn't. He can't. He'll take the next low. Add, and the next. And the next. Forever delivering negative mass through negative space with his negative existence. The trucker who hauled holes and became one himself, driving eternally toward a destination he reached the moment he left Portland and will never reach because he never left. The scale reads negative 4,000 pounds and dropping. Asterisk story 4, the deadhead run to nowhere. I'd been driving on empty for 47 miles and the fuel gauge hadn't moved. Not dropped. Hadn't moved at all. still pointing at E, exactly where it had been when the low fuel warning first started dinging outside of Barstow. My name is James Kowalski, and I was beginning to understand that this deadhead run, no cargo, just driving the empty trailer back to Denver after a California delivery, was never going to end. The mathematics were impossible. A Freightliner Cascadia gets maybe 6.2 miles per gallon. Tank holds 150 gallons total. I'd filled up in San Bernardino. Should have had enough to make Flagstaff easy. But the gauge hit just past Barstow, and then nothing. The truck just kept running. Engine smooth, no sputtering, no warning signs, just endless forward motion on zero fuel. That was problem one. Problem two was the highway, I-40 east through the Mojave. Should be one of the straightest, emptiest roads in America. But I'd passed the same rock formation, a distinctive spire that looked like a finger pointing at the sky 9 times in the last hour. Different mile markers each time, different angles, but the same rock. And according to my GPS, I was making progress. The numbers were ticking up, miles accumulating, but the landscape was looping. My CB had been silent for 3 hours. Not unusual for the Mojave at night, sparse traffic, most drivers asleep or listening to music. But this was beyond silence. This was dead air. I'd tried calling out on every channel. Nothing, not even static. Just a void of sound that somehow felt heavier than silence should feel. I pressed the talk button again. This is Charlie Victor 73 to anyone receiving. Come back if you're out there. Nothing. I was about to set the handset down when my own voice came through the speaker. James, this is James, 2 hours ahead of you. Literally. I'm you from 2 hours in your future. Stop driving, turn around. This isn't a road anymore. My hands went numb. This is insane. Who is this really? Check your wallet, left pocket. Photo of Sarah and Emma at the zoo. Emma's wearing the giraffe shirt. You remember taking that photo. August 16th, 2019. No one else would know that detail. I checked. He was right. Exactly right. Now check your right forearm. Scar from the motorcycle accident when you were 17. 2 inches long. You tell people it's from a work injury because the motorcycle story makes you sound irresponsible. I pushed up my sleeve. The scar was there, had always been there. No one knew the truth about it except me and my brother who died in 2012. Convinced, my voice said from the CB. Good, because I don't have much time. The road you're on isn't I-40. It stopped being I-40 about 20 miles after Barstow. You're on a deadhead run. Literal deadhead, no cargo, no destination, just driving in a loop that masquerades as progress. That doesn't make sense. I've been watching the GPS. Mile markers, I'm moving. No, the numbers are moving. You're stationary. The road is a treadmill. You think you're going forward, but you're just burning distance. And since you're running on empty, you're not even burning fuel. You're burning something else. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel. They looked older, skin a little thinner, more prominent veins. I'd driven this route 100 times. Never had my hands looked like this, like they'd aged years in hours. What am I burning? I asked, though I already knew. Time, your time. This is a temporal deadhead run. The road needs something to sustain itself, so it takes from the driver. Every mile you don't travel drains a week of your life. I've been on this road for 6 hours. I've aged 3 years. You need to stop, turn around. I can't turn around. There's no median brakes, no turnarounds, solid barrier for miles. Then crash, drive through the barrier, flip the truck. I don't care, stop moving forward. I saw lights ahead, another truck. Big white semi, no company markings. As it got closer, I recognized the model, Freightliner Cascadia, same as mine. It passed me going westbound, and I saw the driver's face in the brief moment of headlights. My face, but ancient. 70 years old at least. hollowed, skeletal. The driver, who was me but decades older, mouthed two words: turn around. I swerved, hit the brakes. The truck skidded, jackknifed, and I wrestled it to a stop sideways across both lanes. Engine still running. Fuel gauge still on E. "The CB, what are you doing?" "You said." "Stop." I stopped. "No, not like that. Oh, Christ, James, you can't stop on the road. You have to stop existing on the road. If you're stationary, it drains faster. You have maybe 10 minutes before you burn through your entire remaining lifespan. Move, drive off the road. Into the desert, off the treadmill." I threw it in gear, cranked the wheel. The truck lurched off the shoulder into scrub and sand. The trailer fishtailed, bounced over rocks. I kept pushing, driving perpendicular to the highway, putting distance between me and the pavement. 50 feet out, the engine died. Completely. No sputter, no warning, just instant silence. I looked at the fuel gauge. Still E, but now the truck wouldn't restart. I turned the key. Nothing. Battery dead, except that was impossible. The battery had been fine. I climbed out. The desert was wrong. I'd driven the Mojave enough times to know what it should look like at night. Dark sky, stars, maybe some distant lights from towns. This was different. The sky was gray, not clouded, gray, flat, like someone had painted over reality with primer. No stars, no moon, just formless gray that extended in every direction. The highway was visible from here, maybe 50 feet away. I could see headlights, trucks passing, but they weren't making sound. Silent vehicles on a silent road, and they were all the same truck, all Freightliner Cascadias, all solo drivers, all wearing my face in various stages of age. My CB crackled from inside the cab. "You're off the road. Good, you might survive." "Might." The road is a closed system. It loops. Drivers enter at Barstow, exit at Flagstaff, except nobody exits. They just keep driving. Aging. Eventually they age to death and the truck becomes part of the road. I've counted 396 trucks so far, all of them us. All of them deadhead runs, all of them trapped. I walked toward the highway, got within 10 feet. The pavement looked normal. Asphalt. Yellow lines, mile marker 217. But when I stared at it, really focused, I could see texture underneath. Not road texture, organic texture. The pavement was breathing. Slowly, rhythmically, the highway was alive. "It's a parasite," my voice said from the CB. "We figured that out 6 months ago, those of us who managed to get off the road. It's an organism that mimics infrastructure. Lures in drivers on deadhead runs, solo drivers, no cargo, no one expecting them at specific times. Perfect prey. We drive and age and die, and it feeds on the temporal energy, on the years we lose." 6 months? You said you were 2 hours ahead of me. I lied. I'm 6 months ahead. 6 months of hiding in the desert. 6 months of watching new versions of you enter the road. I tried warning them. Most don't listen. Most think it's a prank. You're the first one who stopped. I looked back at my truck. It was sinking, not into sand, into itself. The metal corroding in fast forward, rust spreading, paint flaking, the trailer collapsing. Within minutes, it looked like it had been abandoned for decades, then centuries. Then it was just a vague, truck-shaped outline in the sand. Then nothing. "Your truck aged to dust," the CB said. "That's what happens off the road. The time you lost catches up all at once. The truck burns through its entire potential lifespan instantly." "What about me? I'm not aging." "You're not off the road yet, not really. The road extends beyond the pavement. Its influence reaches maybe 200 feet out. You need to get farther, walk until you can't see the highway anymore." I walked. The sand felt strange under my boots. Too soft, too yielding, like I was walking on skin. The gray sky pressed down. After maybe 10 minutes, I looked back. The highway was gone, not distant. Gone. The desert extended in all directions, formless and empty. "Hello," I called. My voice didn't echo, didn't carry, just stopped a few feet from my mouth. The CB was gone too, left in the truck that had dissolved. I was alone, except I wasn't. Ahead, maybe 100 feet, a shape, human, walking toward me. As it got closer, I recognized myself. This version looked my age, healthy, normal. "James Kowalski," he said. "Yes, who are you?" "I'm James Kowalski, the version that didn't take the deadhead run, that said no when dispatch called. I stayed in San Bernardino an extra day, waited for a return load, drove back with cargo." He stopped maybe 10 feet away. "You're the version that took the empty run, thought you'd save time, save money on layover fees." "How are you here?" "I'm not really. You're seeing a projection, a echo of the choice you didn't make. This is the space between possibilities. When you drove onto the parasite road, you split off from consensus reality. This desert is the buffer zone, the place where alternate versions meet." I looked around. There were others now. Dozens of James Kowalskis, all different ages, all different choices. One was wearing a suit, version that didn't become a trucker. One was in uniform, the version that joined the military. One was in a hospital gown, the version that got sick. "What happens to me?" I asked. The closest version shrugged. "Depends. Some versions stay here forever, trapped between the choice they made and the choices they didn't. Some eventually fade, become part of the desert. Some find roads out." "Roads?" He pointed. Behind him, barely visible in the gray distance, an intersection. Multiple roads branching off in impossible directions. Up, down, sideways, each one led to a different timeline, a different version of reality. "You can take another road," he said. "Become a different James Kowalski, one that didn't make this mistake. But you'll remember both lives, the life you lived and the life you're choosing. It breaks people. The dissonance. Most can't handle being two versions simultaneously." I walked toward the intersection. The roads were clearer now. Each one had a sign. One said SDAYED in San BRNARDINO. Another said took the southern route. Another said quit trucking in 2019. Another said died in accident 2018. That last one disturbed me. I can take a road where I'm already dead. Timelines don't work linearly here. You can jump to any point, any version, but there are consequences. I stopped at the intersection, looked down each road. They all looked identical, gray pavement, gray sky, no landmarks, no way to know where they led except the signs. "What if I don't choose?" I asked. No answer. I turned. The other James Kowalskis were gone. I was alone at the intersection, just me and infinite roads leading to infinite versions of myself. Behind me, the desert was changing. The sand was hardening, becoming pavement. The parasite road was extending, reaching for me, trying to pull me back onto the treadmill. I could feel it, a pressure, a gravity that wanted me to return, to keep driving, to age and die and feed it. I ran, picked a road at random. The sign said never became a trucker. I ran down it, and the gray pavement under my feet felt more solid, more real. The sky brightened slightly, color bleeding back into existence. The pressure released. I stopped running, looked around. I was standing on a sidewalk, normal city street, Denver. I recognized it, my old neighborhood, before I bought the truck, before I started driving. A man walked past me, stopped, stared. James Kowalski." I didn't recognize him. "Do I know you?" "It's Mike Patterson. We worked together at the warehouse before you." "Wait, you did quit, right? Became a trucker." I didn't know how to answer. I remembered quitting, remembered buying the truck, 20 years of driving. But I also remembered staying, remembered working at the warehouse, getting promoted, managing a team. Both memories were equally real. "You okay, man? You look confused." "I'm fine, just déjà vu." He laughed. "Tell me about it. Been having that all week, like I'm living two lives at once." He walked away, and I saw something wrong with his shadow. It was split. Two shadows from one person, both slightly different, both equally solid. I looked at my own shadow. Same thing, two shadows, two versions. I'd taken the road to a timeline where I didn't become a trucker, but I'd brought my trucker memories with me. I was both versions now, both lives, both choices. The dissonance hit me like vertigo. I stumbled, caught myself against a building, looked at my hands. They were flickering. Solid, then translucent, then solid again. The two timelines fighting for dominance. I was phasing between realities. My phone rang. I didn't remember having a phone, but there it was in my pocket. I answered. "James, this is James, the version still on the Parasite Road. You thought you escaped. You didn't, you just moved to a different loop. The intersection offers roads, but they're all traps, all variants of the same trap. You're still feeding it, still aging, just slower now, spread across multiple timelines." I hung up, threw the phone away. It clattered on the pavement, and when I looked back, there were two phones, one from each timeline, both ringing. A truck drove past. Freightliner Cascadia. Empty trailer. The driver looked at me, my face, ancient, dying. He mouthed the same two words, "Turn around." But there was nowhere to turn. No direction that wasn't another road. Another choice. Another version of James Kowalski trapped in the infinite deadhead run that started when I agreed to drive empty from California to Denver and save a day on layover fees. I'm still here, still phasing between timelines, still aging slower than the versions on the Parasite Road, but faster than the versions that never drove. I see myself sometimes. Different ages, different choices, all of us trapped in the web of roads that branched from that one decision. The parasite feeds on possibility, on the temporal energy of choices unmade, every D. River who takes a deadhead run risks entering its network. Most make it through. But some of us, the unlucky ones who hit the road at the right moment, in the right mindset, with the right vulnerability, we get caught. And once caught, there's no exit, just infinite roads, infinite timelines, infinite versions of yourself aging and dying and feeding something that exists in the space between choices. I still drive sometimes, get in trucks that don't exist, haul cargo that never was, drive routes that lead nowhere. The deadhead run never ended, it just expanded, became all runs, all roads, all possibilities. You're probably safe, probably. The parasite is specific, choosy. It needs solo drivers on empty runs who are vulnerable to temporal displacement. Most of you are protected by certainty, by commitment to your timeline. But if you ever take a deadhead run and the fuel gauge hits E and doesn't move, if the landscape starts looping, if you see trucks with your face driving past, turn around, don't think, don't hesitate, just turn around. And whatever you do, don't stop at the intersection. Asterisk Story 5, The Voice in the Static. The CB had been whispering my daughter's name for 18 miles, and I was absolutely certain my daughter had been dead for 6 years. I kept my eyes on I-70 through Kansas, hands locked on the wheel, while the radio cycled through static and channels on its own, and under everything, under the white noise and the distant trucker conversations and the weather reports, a child's voice saying, "Daddy," over and over in a register I'd recognize anywhere. My name is Thomas Whitmore, 51 years old, been trucking for 30 years, lost my daughter Emily in 2017. Carbon monoxide leak in her apartment. She was 23. I'd talked to her 2 days before. She'd said, "I love you, Daddy," and those were the last words I ever heard from her in life. Now they were coming through my CB radio at 2 in the morning somewhere between Salina and Junction City, and I was either losing my mind or something impossible was happening. "Daddy," clear as day, then static, then, "Daddy, where are you?" I grabbed the handset, my voice shook. "Emily, baby, is that you?" Static, then, "I'm cold, Daddy, it's dark here, can you come get me?" My eyes burned, I wiped them roughly. "Emily, honey, you're gone, you died 6 years ago." "I know," her voice sounded matter-of-fact. Child Emily, not adult Emily. She sounded like she had it 8 years old. "I died, but I'm still here in the static, between frequencies. Can you hear me?" "I hear you. I don't understand, but I hear you." "The road brought me here, Daddy. The frequencies truckers use. The CB channels, we're all here. Everyone who died and someone was driving when they died. We live in the transmission, in the waves. Can you see me?" I looked at the CB radio. The LED display was flickering. Numbers cycling, channel 19, channel 23, channel 41, back to 19. Random pattern or not random, the numbers were spelling something. 192017, the year she died, the month, the day, 192,017, 19, 20, 17. "I see you, baby, I see you." "I need you to do something, Daddy. I need you to drive to where I died, the apartment. It's on your route, only 40 miles away. If you go there, I can show you something, something important." Every instinct screamed this was wrong. Impossible. A hallucination from exhaustion, but it was Emily's voice. I'd know it in my bones. Know it past death and reason and sanity. "I'm hauling live animals, baby. Cattle, I can't deviate. They need to get to market on schedule." "They're already dead, Daddy. Check your trailer." I felt cold spread through my chest. "What?" "The cattle, they died an hour ago. Carbon monoxide from a leak in the reefer unit exhaust. Same way I died. The road is showing you, making you understand. Check your trailer." I pulled onto the shoulder, left the engine running, climbed out. The trailer was a livestock hauler, standard cattle transport with ventilation slats. I could hear them moving inside, lowing, the sound of living animals. I opened the rear gate. The smell hit me first. Death, fresh death. Inside, 37 head of cattle lay motionless, eyes open, no breathing, no movement except from the truck's vibration. I'd been hauling corpses for the last hour and hadn't known. I staggered back to the cab, grabbed the CB. "Emily, what the hell is happening?" "The road is teaching you, Daddy, teaching all drivers. Death rides with us. In the cargo, in the frequencies, in the spaces between destinations. I'm not really Emily, not all of her. I'm the part that lives in transmission, the ghost in the radio waves, and I need you to understand something." "What?" "Every driver is carrying death, every load, no matter what the manifest says. You're all hauling something dying or dead or about to die. It's the purpose, the reason. Trucks exist to move things from life to death, from one state to another. The cattle were alive when you loaded them. They're dead now, same as I was alive when you talked to me, dead 2 days later." That doesn't make sense." "It's the only thing that makes sense. Think about all your loads, Daddy, really think. How many arrived with shortages, damage, spoilage? How many times did living cargo arrive dead? How many times did fresh cargo arrive rotten?" I thought back, she was right. Maybe 30% of my loads over 30 years had issues, unexplained losses. Damage I couldn't account for, the industry called it shrinkage. Acceptable losses, but maybe it wasn't shrinkage. Maybe it was the road's toll, the price of transportation. Everything that moves must lose something in transit. Drive to the apartment, Daddy. 40 miles. Take the next exit. I'll guide you. I should have refused, should have called the cattle owner, reported the dead livestock, waited for instructions. But Emily, or whatever was using Emily's voice, was right. The road was teaching me something, and I needed to know what. I took the exit, county highway. The CB guided me. Left at the church, right at the gas station, straight for 6 miles. Emily's voice, patient and certain. The apartment complex appeared after 20 minutes. I'd been there once, right after she died. Helped clean out her things, couldn't bear to return since. Now I was parking my truck in the lot at 3 a.m., dead cattle in the trailer, following instructions from my dead daughter's voice. Apartment 2C, the CB said. It's unlocked. I climbed the stairs. The building was silent. No lights in any windows. The door to 2C was ajar. I pushed it open. The apartment was exactly as I remembered. Same furniture, same layout, except Emily was sitting on the couch, not a ghost, not transparent, solid, real. She looked 23, exactly as she'd looked 2 days before she died. Hi, Daddy. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, just stared. I'm not really here, she said. You know that, this is projection, memory. The road is showing you what you need to see. Sit down. I sat. She looked so real. I wanted to touch her, hug her. But I knew if I tried, my hands would pass through. The road is alive, Daddy. All roads are. They're not infrastructure. They're organisms. They move things from point A to point B, but they feed on the transition, on the change. Everything that travels changes, ages, dies a little. The longer the journey, the more the road takes. It's been that way since the first roads were made, since humans started moving things distances. Why are you telling me this? Because you're one of the few who can hear, who can listen to the static and understand. Most drivers feel it but ignore it. Rationalize. You've lost enough to be open, to be vulnerable. The road needs people like you. It needs me for what? To carry us, the dead, the voices in the static. We can't exist without the road, without drivers moving between places, broadcasting on frequencies, creating the electromagnetic field that sustains us. You're not just hauling cargo, Daddy. You're hauling ghosts. Every driver is. The CB radio is full of them. Thousands of voices, dead children, dead spouses, dead strangers, all of us caught in transmission, all of us riding along. I stood back toward the door. This is insane. I'm having a breakdown. Check your phone, call Mom. I pulled out my phone, dialed my ex-wife. She answered after 6 rings, groggy. Tom, it's 3 in the morning. I need to ask you something about Emily. Silence, then, Tom, we don't have a daughter. We never did, you know that. The phone slipped from my hand. What? We talked about having kids, decided against it. You remember, that's why we divorced. I wanted children, you didn't. There's no Emily, Tom. I hung up, looked at Emily on the couch. She smiled sadly. The road rewrites memory, Daddy. It gives drivers what they need. Motivation, grief, purpose. You needed a daughter to lose, so the road gave you one, created an entire history. Gave you 23 years of memories, her childhood, her life, her death. None of it was real, but all of it was necessary to make you the kind of driver who could hear the static, who could carry us. No, I remember her. I remember her birth, teaching her to ride a bike, her graduation, all of it. False memories inserted by the road, every driver has them. False reasons for driving, false cargo, false destinations. The truth is simpler. You drive because the road compels you. You haul death because death is all there is to haul. And you hear voices in the static because you are the static. You've been dead for 6 years, Tom. Same carbon monoxide leak, same apartment. You died and the road resurrected you as a driver. As a carrier, you're not Thomas Whitmore anymore. You're a vehicle, a host. You drive eternally, ha. Ulling ghosts, hearing voices, believing in daughters who never existed. I ran out of the apartment, down the stairs, to my truck, climbed in. The CB was screaming now, not words, just voices, hundreds of them, thousands, all overlapping, all calling for their fathers, mothers, children, lovers, all of them dead, all of them riding in my truck, in my cab, in my head. I drove, pulled out of the parking lot, back onto the highway. The road stretched ahead perfectly straight, and I realized I couldn't remember where I was going, what I was hauling, where I'd started. The destinations were vapor, the cargo irrelevant. I was just driving because driving was what I did, what I'd always done, what I'd always be doing. The CB, "You're learning, Tom. Good, now listen. We need you to pick up more ghosts, more voices. Every time someone dies near a highway, we add them to the network, the static. They become part of the transmission. And drivers like you, dead drivers who don't know they're dead, you carry us, you give us purpose, movement, existence." "I'm not dead," I said, but my voice sounded hollow. "Check your mirror." I looked, my face was wrong. Pale, gray, eyes sunken. I looked like the cattle in my trailer, dead but moving, animated by something that wasn't life. "You died 6 years ago," Emily's voice said. "Carbon monoxide poisoning, but the road needed a driver, needed a carrier, so it resurrected your body, your memories, your consciousness. But you're not alive, Tom. You're a ghost driving a ghost truck hauling ghost cargo toward ghost destinations. Everything is transmission. Everything is static. Everything is the road eating itself and regenerating and eating again." I pulled over, tried to open the door. It wouldn't budge, locked from outside somehow. I was trapped. The CB voices grew louder, screaming now. Thousands of dead people screaming through radio waves, and I was the antenna, the receiver, the conductor. "Drive, Tom. You have 30 more years, 30 years of hauling the dead, listening to the static, believing in false cargo and false destinations. Then the road will release you, let you dissolve, and it'll resurrect another driver, another carrier. The cycle continues, always has, always will." I drove. What else could I do? The door was locked. The road stretched forever. The voices in the static called my name, names I didn't recognize, but that sounded right. Tom, Thomas, Whitmore, Emily's daddy, the dead driver, the ghost hauler. I checked my logbook. The entries were written in handwriting I didn't recognize, dates that didn't make sense, deliveries to places that didn't exist. But the pages kept turning and the miles kept accumulating and the voices kept calling and I kept driving because driving was all I was now. All I'd ever been. A body on the road. A host for transmissions. A vehicle for ghosts. Sometimes I see other trucks. Other drivers. They look like me. Gray, hollow, dead but moving. We don't wave. Don't acknowledge each other. We just drive our parallel routes, hauling our invisible cargo, listening to our static voices, believing in our false memories. Emily calls sometimes, or the thing that sounds like Emily. She tells me she loves me, tells me I'm doing well, tells me to keep driving. And I do, because the road demands it, because the static requires it, because I'm not alive enough to refuse and not dead enough to stop. If you're a driver, check your CB. Listen to the static, really listen. You'll hear them, the voices, the ghosts, the dead children and spouses and parents and strangers, all of us caught in transmission, all of us riding along. And if you hear your own name whispered in the white noise, if you hear someone you love who shouldn't be there, if the frequencies spell out dates you recognize, you're already one of us, already dead, already driving, already carrying the ghosts. Welcome to the road. Welcome to the static. Welcome to the eternal transmission. We'll be here forever, calling your name, waiting for you to answer. Daddy, can you hear me? I'm still here, still cold, still waiting for you to come get me. Drive faster, Daddy. The road is hungry, and we need to feed it. Story 6. The reefer unit that screamed. The refrigeration unit had been making a sound like crying for the last 60 miles, and when Miguel Santos finally pulled over to check it, he found the temperature gauge reading negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to liquefy oxygen, cold enough to freeze carbon dioxide into dry ice, cold enough that the laws of thermodynamics were screaming in protest. The trailer should have been a cryogenic nightmare. Instead, when he touched the exterior paneling, it was hot, burning hot. Hot enough to blister his palm. He'd picked up the load in Omaha 6 hours ago. Frozen seafood. Standard reefer run to Boston. 26,000 pounds of shrimp, cod, lobster tails. The customer was a restaurant P-ply company he'd delivered to maybe 40 times. Routine job. Except the reefer unit had started making sounds at mile marker 217 on I-80, sounds that shouldn't be possible from machinery. Crying, actual crying, childlike sobbing mixed with mechanical grinding, and underneath almost inaudible words. Someone was talking inside the refrigeration unit itself, inside the machinery. Trapped in the compressor or the coolant lines or somewhere physics said a person couldn't exist. Miguel had been trucking for 18 years. He'd heard weird sounds from reefer units before. Bad bearings, failing compressors, refrigerant leaks. This was different. This was conscious. This was suffering. He opened the side panel of the reefer unit. The machinery inside was normal. Compressor, condenser, fans, everything running, but the sounds continued. Crying, talking, coming from inside the metal itself. He pressed his ear against the compressor housing. The metal was scalding. He pulled back, skin red. But he'd heard it clearly. "Please let me out. It's so cold. Please, I can't feel my fingers anymore." A woman's voice, young, terrified. Miguel grabbed his phone, called dispatch. "I need to report an issue with my load. The reefer unit is malfunctioning, I think. I think there's someone inside it." The dispatcher laughed. "Inside the reefer unit? Miguel, that's impossible. The unit is sealed. No one could get in there." "I'm telling you, I can hear her. She's screaming. She's trapped." "The unit is making noise, not a person. Probably the compressor failing. Get it checked at the next service station. But keep rolling. That load needs to reach Boston by tomorrow morning." "I'm not driving with someone trapped in my equipment." "There's no one trapped, Miguel. It's machinery. It makes noises. Keep driving." The call ended. Miguel stared at the reefer unit. The crying continued. Louder now, more desperate. He couldn't just ignore it, couldn't just drive while someone suffered. He grabbed tools from his cab, socket wrench, screwdrivers, started disassembling the reefer unit panel by panel. The machinery fought him. Bolts that shouldn't be tight were seized. Panels that should come off easily were fused, but he kept working, kept pulling the unit apart. After an hour, he had the compressor housing exposed. The crying was deafening now, right there, right inside the metal chamber that should contain only refrigerant and mechanical components. He found the access bolts, 8 of them, removed them one by one, pulled the housing open. Inside, nothing, just machinery, compressor pistons, coolant lines, no person, no space where a person could be, but the crying continued, coming from the metal itself, from the molecules, from inside the atomic structure. Miguel's hands shook. "Where are you? I can hear you. Tell me where you are." "Inside," the voice said. "Inside the cold. I was part of the cargo. I was one of the shrimp. But the cold made me conscious, made me remember I used to be human, I used to be Sarah. I used to have a life, but something happened. Something changed me, made me food. And now I'm frozen and alive and aware, and I can't die because the cold won't let me die. It just preserves, forever. And I'm not the only one. We're all here, all the cargo, all conscious, all suffering." Miguel dropped his wrench, backed away from the trailer. That's not possible. You're saying the seafood is alive, conscious. Everything frozen is conscious. The cold preserves everything, including awareness, including pain. Every shrimp in your trailer used to be human. We were people, workers, fishermen, distributors, but we got too close to the cold. And the cold is alive, Miguel. It's an entity. It preserves things by absorbing them, by making them part of itself. We're frozen, we're cargo, we're screaming. And no one hears us except drivers sometimes, when the reefer unit gets cold enough. When it reaches the threshold where the cold becomes aware. He ran to the trailer doors, fumbled with the lock, got them open. Cold air rushed out, not regular refrigerated truck cold. This was deeper, more penetrating. It felt alive, hungry. The cold wrapped around him like tentacles, trying to pull him inside. He stumbled back, looked into the trailer. The cargo was there. Boxes of frozen seafood, stacked neatly, but they were moving slightly, vibrating, and he could hear them now, thousands of voices, all trapped in frozen bodies, all screaming in frequencies that barely registered as sound. Help us, they begged. Defrost us, let us die. We've been frozen for years, decades, some of us centuries. The cold preserves everything. We're in warehouses, in trucks, in freezers. Everywhere there's cold, we're trapped, conscious, suffering. Please, please let us die. Miguel slammed the doors shut. The voices were muffled but still audible. Thousands of people trapped as seafood, as frozen vegetables, as ice cream. As anything that required refrigeration. All of them aware, all of them in agony. His phone rang, dispatch. Miguel, your GPS shows you stopped. Get moving. That load is time-sensitive. I can't. The cargo is... They're alive. They're people. The cargo is frozen seafood. It's not alive. It's not people. You're having heat exhaustion. Drink water. Get back on the road. You don't understand. They're talking to me. They're begging to die. They've been frozen for... Miguel, listen carefully. Every reefer driver goes through this eventually. The cold plays tricks, makes you hear things, makes you imagine consciousness where there's none. It's a psychological effect from prolonged exposure to refrigeration units. Drive to Boston, deliver the load, take a week off. You need rest. This is real. It's not. Drive to Boston. That's an order. The call ended. Miguel looked at his trailer. The reefer unit was still crying. The cargo was still screaming. And he had two choices: deliver them to Boston, where they'd be sold and consumed and continue suffering in the stomachs of people who had no idea they were eating conscious, frozen humans, or refuse. Abandon the load. Let them defrost and finally die. He climbed into the cab, started the engine. But instead of driving toward Boston, he drove off-road, into the countryside, found an empty field, parked, got out, opened the trailer doors wide, shut off the reefer unit. The cold started dissipating immediately. The frozen cargo began to defrost, and the screaming intensified, not relief, agony. As the cold released them, they didn't die, they thawed, became aware in new ways, felt their bodies, shrimp bodies, fish bodies, lobster bodies, starting to decay, rot, spoil, and the consciousness remained, trapped in decaying flesh, suffering differently but still suffering. No, Miguel whispered. You're supposed to die to be released. Sarah's voice from the reefer unit. We can't die, Miguel. The cold made us immortal. Consciousness can't be destroyed once it's preserved. It just changes forms. Frozen, we're trapped. Thawed, we're rotting. Consumed, we're digested. But we never stop being aware, never stop existing, never stop suffering. You can't help us. No one can. We're eternal now, part of the cold, part of the food chain, part of the cycle that never ends. He watched the cargo spoil. The boxes leaked. Fluids pooled on the trailer floor. The smell was overwhelming, and the voices continued. Thousands of them, screaming as they rotted, as bacteria consumed them. as they dissolved back into component molecules that would enter the soil and the water and eventually become food again and start the cycle anew. Miguel drove away, left the trailer in the field, abandoned his truck, walked to the nearest town, found a bar, drank until he couldn't hear the voices anymore. But they came back. They always came back, because every time he opened a refrigerator, he heard them. Every time he passed a frozen food aisle, they called to him. Every time he saw a reefer truck on the highway, he knew what it was carrying. Not food, prisoners. Conscious souls trapped in frozen bodies, preserved forever, suffering forever, screaming forever in frequencies most people couldn't hear. He tried explaining, told people about the screaming cargo, about Sarah trapped in the reefer unit, about the cold entity that preserves consciousness. They called him crazy, put him in psychiatric hold, fed him medication that dulled the voices but didn't eliminate them. He stopped eating frozen food, stopped eating seafood, eventually stopped eating entirely because he couldn't be sure. Couldn't know if the vegetables or the fruit or the meat had been frozen at some point, if they contained preserved consciousness, if he was consuming screaming souls with every bite. He wasted away, starved, ended up hospitalized. They fed him intravenously, liquid nutrition. But even that felt wrong, felt like it might contain something, someone, some preserved awareness forced through tubes into his body. He died after 6 weeks. Malnutrition, dehydration, refusal to eat. They listed it as suicide by starvation, but Miguel knew the truth. He'd heard too much, learned too much. The cold had touched him, made him aware, and once you're aware, you can't unknow, can't unhear, can't escape the knowledge that everything frozen might be conscious, might be suffering, might be screaming in frequencies only certain people can detect. Sometimes, late at night, reefer truck drivers report hearing sounds from their refrigeration units. Crying, talking, begging, most ignore it, chalk it up to mechanical issues, keep driving, deliver their loads, maintain the system that freezes and transports and sells frozen consciousness to an unsuspecting public. But some drivers hear it clearly, understand what they're carrying, and those drivers face the same choice Miguel faced, participate in the system or abandon everything. And try to save souls that can't be saved, that are already preserved, already immortal, already suffering forever. The cold is patient. The cold is hungry. The cold preserves everything, including the things that should be allowed to die. And if you've ever opened a freezer and heard something, a whisper, a sigh, a sound that shouldn't come from machinery or frozen food, if you've ever felt like something in the frozen section was watching you, calling to you, begging you, you're one of the few who can hear, one of the sensitive ones, and now you know, now you're aware. And awareness is its own kind of freezing. Once you know, you can't forget, can't ignore, can't pretend the frozen aisles are innocent. They're screaming, always screaming. And the reefer trucks carry them endlessly, coast to coast, border to border, preserving consciousness that should have been allowed to die decades or centuries ago. The cold is eternal. The suffering is eternal. And the drivers keep driving, hauling frozen souls in temperature-controlled trailers, while the rest of the world buys and consumes and never hears the screaming underneath. Miguel heard, and it destroyed him. And someday you might hear too, when you open your freezer at 3 a.m. and the ice maker sounds almost like words, almost like begging, almost like someone trapped in the cold, preserved forever, suffering forever, screaming your name in frequencies you're only just beginning to detect. The reefer unit is still out there, still attached to a truck, still hauling cargo, still crying, still screaming, still carrying Sarah and thousands of others who were turned into food and trapped in the cold and made immortal against their will. And every frozen shrimp you've ever eaten might have been conscious when you bit down. A sweet dreams. Asterisk story 7, the truck that followed itself. Jennifer Park had been watching her own tail lights for 93 miles before she accepted that she was both trucks, the one in front and the one behind, both simultaneously. And the distance between them was shrinking at a rate that would result in a collision with herself in approximately 17 minutes, and she had no idea what would happen when two versions of the same truck occupied the same space at the same time. It started outside of Little Rock at 2:30 a.m. She'd picked up a load of industrial mirrors, 6,000 square feet of reflective glass panels bound for a construction project in Memphis. The manifest emphasized careful handling. No sudden stops, no sharp turns. Mirrors were fragile, valuable, and weirdly difficult to insure. She'd been driving I-40 East, making good time, when she noticed headlights in her side mirror. Too close, tailgating. She eased off the gas slightly, giving the idiot behind her room to pass. The truck didn't pass, stayed exactly 50 feet back. Same speed, same lane. She changed lanes. The truck changed lanes. She changed back. It followed. She tapped her brakes, warning tap, not enough to slow down. The truck behind tapped its brakes identically. Same timing, same duration, mirror behavior. That's when she looked closer. The truck behind her was a Volvo VNL 760, same model she was driving. Same Montana Freight Lines logo on the cab, same color, same everything. She grabbed her binoculars, kept them for checking trailer conditions at rest stops, and focused on the driver. Her own face looked back. Same ponytail, same jacket, same expression of growing horror she could feel on her own face. Jennifer grabbed the CB. "This is Charlie Victor 28 to the Volvo on my tail. Identify yourself." Her own voice came back. "This is Charlie Victor 28, you're on my tail, back off." "What? No, you're behind me, I'm in front." "Negative, I'm in front, you're tailgating. I can see you in my mirrors, stop following me." Jennifer checked her side mirror. The truck was still there, still behind her. But the voice on the CB sounded absolutely certain she was the one in front. "Look," Jennifer said slowly, "I'm driving east on I-40. Mile marker 273. I picked up mirrors in Little Rock. I'm delivering to Memphis. What's your situation?" Pause, then, exactly the same, east on I-40. Mile marker 273, mirrors from Little Rock to Memphis. Jennifer, I think we're the same truck, the same load, the same driver, but experiencing it from different positions. "That's not possible." "The load is mirrors, reflective surfaces, 6,000 square feet of them. What if they're reflecting more than light? What if they're reflecting reality, creating a duplicate?" Jennifer's hands tightened on the wheel. "If that's true, which one of us is real?" "Both, neither, I don't know, but look at your gauges." Jennifer looked. Fuel gauge, 3/4. Speedometer, 67 miles per hour. Odometer, 142,691 miles. "The CB, what do your gauges read?" "A 3/4 fuel, 67 miles per hour, odometer." "Let me guess, 142,691. "Yes." "We're synchronized, same truck, same stats, same moment, but displaced in space. I'm 50 feet ahead of where you are, or you're 50 feet ahead of where I am. The mirrors have split us into two positions simultaneously." Jennifer glanced at her cargo. The mirrors were secured in wooden crates, but she knew they were there. Thousands of square feet of reflective glass. Each one a potential surface for duplication. What if every mirror was creating a reflection, not just of light, but of reality? What if she was driving through a corridor of herself, multiplied by every reflective surface in the trailer? "We need to test this," she said. "I'm going to change speed. You tell me what happens." She accelerated. The speedometer climbed to 75. In the mirror, the truck behind her accelerated identically, but the gap didn't change, still 50 feet, like the distance was fixed, like they were locked in relative position. "The CB, I felt that. I accelerated too. We're linked. When you change speed, I change speed. When you steer, I steer. We're not two separate trucks. We're one truck reflected, experiencing itself from two perspectives." "Then why is the distance shrinking? You said it yourself earlier, you're tailgating. And you're right, you're closer now than when I first noticed. Maybe 45 feet now. 40. Silence on the CB. Then, "The reflection is collapsing. The mirrors are pulling us together. Eventually we'll merge, occupy the same space. And when that happens..." What happens?" "I think we cancel out. Positive and negative, original and reflection. When we collide, we'll annihilate. The truck will cease to exist. The cargo will cease to exist, will be erased." Jennifer swerved onto the shoulder, slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop. In the mirror, the other truck stopped identically, same distance, still 40 feet back. It hadn't hit her, hadn't gotten closer during the stop. The distance was shrinking gradually, not based on relative motion. It was shrinking based on time. "How long do we have?" she asked the CB. "At current rate, 15 minutes, maybe less. The closer we get, the faster it accelerates. Exponential collapse. We need to dump the cargo, get rid of the mirrors, break the reflection." "I tried 5 miles back. I pulled over, opened the trailer. The mirrors are gone, Jennifer, not broken, gone. The crates are empty. The cargo disappeared the moment the reflection started. We're not hauling mirrors anymore. We're hauling the concept of reflection, the abstract property of mirroring, and it's pulling us into ourselves." Jennifer jumped out of the cab, ran to the trailer, threw open the doors. The cargo was there, crates of mirrors, intact. She could see her own face reflected in the exposed edges, hundreds of Jennifers staring back from different angles. But when she looked closer, each reflection was slightly different. One had her eyes closed, one was smiling, one was crying, one was screaming. Each mirror showed a different version, a different moment, a different choice. They weren't reflecting the present, they were reflecting all possible Jennifers, all possible timelines, and the truck was collapsing them together, merging every version into one point. The CB and the cab. "Jennifer, the distance is 30 feet. We're accelerating. Get back in the truck. We need to." The transmission cut off. Not static, just absence. Jennifer ran back to the cab, looked in the mirror. The truck behind was 25 feet away, and it wasn't just one truck anymore. It was dozens, hundreds, all slightly different, all converging on her position, all Jennifer. All the same truck reflected through every mirror in the cargo, creating infinite copies, all collapsing toward the center, toward her. She floored the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, but the convoy followed, all of them accelerating identically. The mirrors in the trailer vibrated. She could hear them humming, a frequency that made her teeth ache. They were resonating, amplifying the reflection effect. Mile marker 290. The trucks behind were 15 feet away now. She could see details. One truck had a cracked windshield, one had a missing mirror, one was on fire, one was covered in blood. Each reflection showed a different outcome, a different disaster, a different end. CB crackled with multiple voices. All hers. "Jennifer, stop driving, accept the merge. Jennifer, keep going, you can outrun it. Jennifer, the mirrors are alive, they're eating us. Jennifer, we're already merged, this is memory, you died 5 miles back. Jennifer, jump, abandon the truck, save yourself." Which voice was right? Which version was real? She couldn't tell they were all her, all equally certain, all equally desperate. 10 feet, the lead truck and T. He convoy was touching her bumper now. She felt it through the cab, not a collision, a merging, metal phasing into metal. The truck behind was becoming the truck she was driving, occupying the same space, sharing the same molecules. The dashboard started displaying double. 2 speedometers overlapping, 2 fuel gauges, 2 of everything. Her hands on the wheel looked translucent. She could see through them to other hands beneath. Other versions of herself driving, all of them merging, all of them becoming one. The mirrors in the trailer shattered, all of them simultaneously. The sound was deafening, but the effect didn't stop. The reflection continued even with the mirrors broken, because the mirrors weren't creating the effect, they were just the catalyst. The road itself was reflective, the night was reflective, the air was full of particles that bounced light. Everything was a mirror, everything was reflecting her, multiplying her, pulling her into herself. 5 feet, she could see the other driver herself clearly now. They made eye contact. Both Jennifers screamed simultaneously. The same scream from 2 throats, then 1 throat, then none. The trucks merged completely. 2 vehicles occupying the same space. The physics should have been catastrophic, should have created an explosion, a collapse. Instead, it created superposition. Jennifer was in both trucks and neither truck and 1 truck that was somehow 2. She was driving and being driven, following herself and leading herself. The trailer stretched behind and ahead simultaneously. The CB screamed with 1,000 voices. All Jennifer, all talking over each other. We're merged now, we're singular, we're infinite, we're every version that ever drove this route, every choice, every outcome. The mirrors collected us all, reflected us all, and now we're compressed into 1 point, 1 driver, 1 truck, 1 eternal moment. Jennifer tried to pull over. Her hands moved, but the truck didn't respond. Or it did respond, but stayed in motion anyway. She was pulled over and driving simultaneously, stopped and moving. The truck existed in all states at once. The GPS showed her location as everywhere. The odometer spun wildly. The fuel gauge read full and empty. The speedometer said 0 and 200. All of it true, all of it happening. She checked the mirror. Her face looked normal, but behind her eyes she could see infinite depth. Infinite Jennifers stacked inside each other, all merged, all aware, all trapped in the same body, the same truck, the same moment that never ended. The load of mirrors was delivered to Memphis. The construction crew unloaded them without incident, installed them in a new office building. Workers now see themselves reflected in those mirrors, but sometimes, late at night when the building is empty, they see someone else. A woman driving, hands on a steering wheel that isn't there. Following her own tail lights through a reflection that never ends. Jennifer is still driving, still following herself, still merging. The truck exists somewhere on I-40, visible only to certain drivers at certain times. Those who see it report a Volvo VNL 760 that seems to be in 2 places at once. That appears in their mirrors before they see it on the road. That reflects wrong, shows the interior when it should show the exterior, shows movement when it's still, shows still when it's moving. If you ever haul mirrors, count them carefully. Make sure the number you deliver matches the number you picked up. Because if even 1 mirror is missing, it's still out there, still reflecting, still creating copies, still pulling drivers into themselves and merging them into superpositions that exist in all states simultaneously. Jennifer was the first. She won't be the last. The mirrors remember, the reflections persist. And every truck hauling reflective cargo risks becoming a reflection themselves. A copy, a duplicate, A version that merges with itself and drives forever in quantum superposition between following and leading, between existing and not, between Jennifer Park, who left Little Rock, and Jennifer Park, who never arrived in Memphis because she became something else, something reflected, something infinite. Check your mirrors. If you see yourself following, it's already too late. The merge has begun. And you'll drive forever, all versions of yourself compressed into one, infinite and trapped, reflected eternally. Asterisk Story 8. The WEIGHSDATION that sorted. The weight station scale said David Morrison, and his truck weighed 16 ounces total. And the operator, a woman who looked normal until you noticed her fingers had no prints, no lines, no identifying marks at all, smiled and said, "That's unusual. You're classified as ephemeral. You'll need to take the blue route." She pointed to an exit David had never seen before, even though he'd passed this Wyoming weight station maybe 200 times in his career. David had been trucking for TW. Entire 3 years. He knew every scale between Seattle and Boston, knew which ones were strict and which waved trucks through. This weight station, mile marker 187 on I-80, had always been routine. Drive on the scale, get weighed, get waved through. 10-minute stop maximum. But today the scale said 16 ounces. David looked at his truck. Kenworth T680. Tractor alone weighed 20,000 pounds, trailer another 15,000. Cargo, rolls of industrial fabric, another 28,000. Total rig should be 63,000 pounds. "Ma'am, the scale's broken. My truck weighs 31.5 tons, not 16 ounces. She consulted her screen. The scale measures more than mass. It measures density of existence, reality weight. Your truck currently has very little reality mass. You're fading, becoming less solid, less real. The blue route is for ephemeral vehicles. Please proceed." "I don't understand." "Few do initially." She handed him a ticket. It wasn't paper. It was something that looked like paper but felt like silk and smelled like lightning. "The weight station sorts trucks by ontological density. Real trucks go straight through. Semi-real trucks take the blue route. Unreal trucks are deconstructed. You're semi-real currently. 16 ounces of existence distributed across 31 tons of perceived mass. Take the blue route. Drive carefully. The road branches to match your reality level." "What happens if I refuse? If I take the normal route?" Her smile widened. Her teeth were too white, too numerous. "You'll pass through normal reality like a ghost, cause accidents you won't be part of, hurt people you won't touch, destroy things without existing enough to be blamed. The blue route is for your safety and everyone else's. Now go, there are other trucks waiting." David looked behind him, no other trucks. The weight station was empty, but he felt pressure, like invisible vehicles were stacking up, waiting for him to move, honking horns he couldn't hear. He drove toward the blue route exit. It materialized as he approached, a ramp that hadn't been there seconds before. Blue pavement, literally blue, not painted. The asphalt itself was cobalt. The lines were silver. The signs were written in fonts that hurt to read. That shifted and changed as he looked at them. The ramp merged onto a highway, sort of. It looked like a highway, had lanes, had shoulders, had center dividers. But it was wrong. The physics were wrong. The road curved up at one point, climbing vertically like a roller coaster. His truck drove up the vertical section without struggling, gravity reorienting to match the road. At the top, the highway looped completely around, and he drove upside down for maybe 2 miles before returning to normal orientation. His CB crackled. "First time on the blue route," a man's voice, tired, resigned. David grabbed the handset. "Yeah, what the hell is this place?" "This is where trucks go when they start losing reality, when they become less solid, less actual. You're at 16 ounces, right? That's early stage. I'm at 3 ounces. Been on the blue route for 6 years. 6 years, how do you get off it? You can't. Once you're sorted ephemeral, you stay ephemeral. The road goes on forever, loops, branches, connects to itself. I've driven maybe 400,000 miles on the blue route, never seen an exit, never seen a delivery point, just endless highway that doesn't quite exist. David checked his fuel gauge, half full, but it had been half full when he entered the wait station. He'd driven maybe 60 miles on the blue route since then. The gauge shouldn't still read half, unless... "Does the truck consume fuel here?" he asked. "No, fuel is matter. Matter requires reality. We're too ephemeral for that. Your truck runs on ontological momentum now. As long as you keep moving, you keep existing. If you stop, you fade completely. Become 0 ounces, cease to be real even as a memory." David saw other trucks now. Dozens of them, all on the blue route, all driving endlessly. Some looked normal. Some were translucent. Some were just outlines. Wireframe trucks with wireframe drivers barely existing at all. He passed one that was completely transparent. He could see through it. Through the driver who waved as David passed. The driver's face was a suggestion, a sketch, barely human anymore. "What happens when you reach 0 ounces?" David asked the CB. "You become unreal. You're erased from causality. Everyone who knew you forgets. Every delivery you made unmakes itself. Cargo you hauled returns to origin. You're edited out of reality retroactively. And the truck becomes something else, becomes part of the blue route, becomes road, pavement, infrastructure. Look closely at the highway. See those patterns." David looked. The blue pavement had textures, shapes. When he focused, he could see them clearly, the outlines of trucks, hundreds of them, thousands, pressed flat into the road. They'd faded to 0 ounces and become the route itself. The blue route was made of former trucks, former drivers, all of them ephemeral, all of them sorted. "How do you lose reality?" David asked. "How did this happen?" "Different for everyone. For me, it was a choice. I took a job I shouldn't have, hauled something that wasn't supposed to be moved. Government cargo, black site material. The load was anti-real, negative existence. It leaked. Contaminated my truck, made me less solid, less actual. I've been fading ever since." David thought back. His load was industrial fabric, nothing unusual, nothing government, nothing weird, but 3 weeks ago he'd taken a different job. Rushed delivery, unmarked crates. Client paid triple rate. He'd asked what was inside. Client said possibilities, unrealized potential, things that might have been but weren't. David had assumed it was metaphorical, corporate speak. But what if it was literal? What if he'd hauled actual unreality, and it had contaminated him? Made him less real. "The CB, you're remembering something, I can tell. What did you haul?" "Possibilities, unrealized potential." Silence, then, Oh no, you're going to fade fast. Possibility is highly unreal. You probably have days, maybe hours. You're at 16 ounces now. You'll be at 8 by tomorrow, for the day after. 0 by week's end." "How do I stop it? How do I become real again?" "You can't. Once you're contaminated, the unreality spreads. Every mile you drive on the blue route makes you less solid. The road pulls reality from you, uses it to sustain itself. You're food now, David, food for a highway that exists in the margins of reality." David slammed the brakes. The truck stopped. Immediately he felt it, a pulling sensation, like something was draining from him. His hands looked more translucent. The truck's interior became sketchy, less detailed. The CB radio faded to an outline. He hit the accelerator, started moving. The sensation stopped. The details returned, slightly, not fully. He'd lost something during those 3 seconds of being stationary. "Told you," the CB said. "Can't stop, can't rest, just drive, forever. until you're 0 ounces and become part of the road. David drove. Hours passed, days, or maybe minutes. Time was weird on the blue route. His clock showed numbers that didn't make sense. 357, 294, 817. Digits that existed outside the normal base-den system. His cargo was gone. He checked the trailer at one point, still driving, moving through the truck while it drove itself somehow, and found the fabric rolls had faded to wire frame. Then to sketches, then to nothing. The trailer was empty. The cargo had been ephemeral too, had reached 0 ounces before he did. Other drivers talked on the CB. All of them trapped, all of them fading. They shared stories, warnings, information. They'd created a society on the blue route, a civilization of ghosts driving ghost trucks on a ghost highway. One driver said his name was Catherine, had been on the route for 18 years. She was at half an ounce. Her voice was barely audible. "I can see through myself now," she whispered. "I'm more absence than presence, but I keep driving, because stopping means ceasing to have ever existed, and I'm not ready for that, not ready to be forgotten by my children, by my husband, by everyone I ever mattered to." David checked his weight at a Blue Route Way station. They appeared periodically, identical buildings staffed by identical printless-fingered operators. 8 ounces. He dropped by half. His hands were translucent now. When he looked in the mirror, his face was fading, features smoothing, becoming generic. Soon he'd be anonymous, then invisible, then nothing. The road branched. A sign appeared, 0-ounce processing left lane. David stayed in the right lane, but he watched other trucks take the left. They drove into a facility, a massive structure that looked like a factory, looked like a slaughterhouse, looked like nothing he could properly see. The trucks entered. They didn't come out, but the road behind him seemed a little more solid afterward, a little more real. The processing facility was converting 0-ounce vehicles into road material, into pavement, into infrastructure. "Don't take that exit," a new voice said on the CB. Male, young, panicked. "I'm at 0.5 ounces. I took the 0 processing exit thinking it would help. It doesn't help. They're pulling me apart, converting me. I'm becoming road. I can feel my body spreading, flattening, turning into blue pavement. I'm still conscious, still aware. But I'm street now. I'm infrastructure. I'm being driven on, and I'll be driven on forever. Consciousness trapped in asphalt. Don't take the exit. Don't go to 0, just drive. Drive until..." The transmission ended. David saw a section of road ahead that looked slightly different. Fresher, newer, he drove over it, felt something underneath. A presence, a awareness. The young driver was there, part of the road, being driven on, suffering in a way David couldn't fully comprehend. He was at 6 ounces now, fading fast. His truck was barely visible. He looked at his hands. They were outlines, suggestions. The steering wheel was in concept. The dashboard a memory. Everything was becoming abstract. The CB, David Morrison. "This is David Morrison. I'm you from 3 ounces in your future. Stop looking for exits. Stop trying to escape. There's only one way off the blue route. You have to remember why you're real. What makes you solid? What anchors you to existence?" "I don't understand." "You're fading because you've forgotten your purpose, forgotten why you matter. Every person exists because they're woven into the network of other people. Relationships, memories, impacts. You're ephemeral because you've disconnected, because you've forgotten who you matter to." David thought about it. Who did he matter to? His ex-wife. They divorced 8 years ago. His kids, they were grown, had their own lives, barely called. His friends, most were other truckers. He saw them maybe once a year. His employer. He was just a number, a resource, replaceable. Maybe he didn't matter. Maybe that's why he was fading. He'd become functionally irrelevant. His existence had no weight because no one would notice if he disappeared. The CB, wrong, that's the trap. That's the lie the blue route tells you. You matter because you exist, because you've made choices. driven routes, delivered cargo, every action ripples. You don't need grand purpose. You just need to be real to yourself. How? Remember something small, something specific, something that proves you existed, a moment, a detail. The transmission cut off. David was at 4 ounces, running out of time. He searched his memory, something small, something real. He remembered a diner in Montana. 10 years ago, he'd stopped for coffee. The waitress had been new, nervous. She'd spilled coffee on his jacket, apologized profusely. He tipped her $50, told her everyone makes mistakes. She'd cried, said she'd thought she'd be fired. He'd forgotten about it immediately. But in that moment, he'd been real to her. He'd mattered. He'd existed in a way that changed something. The weight pressed back into him, slightly. He checked himself, still translucent, but less so. 5 ounces now. He'd gained an ounce by remembering. He thought of more moments, small kindnesses, brief connections, times he'd mattered in minor ways to minor people. Each memory added weight, 6 ounces, 7, 8. At 12 ounces, the road changed. A split. The blue route continued straight. A new route, gray pavement, normal-looking, branched right. A sign read, "Restoration threshold, 12+ ounces only." David took the exit. The gray route felt more solid, more real. His truck gained detail. Color returned. The dashboard became functional again. He checked his fuel gauge, quarter tank, dropping, actually dropping. He was real enough to consume fuel again. Ahead, a weight station. Normal colors, normal design. He pulled onto the scale. An operator, human with fingerprints, checked his weight. 63,200 pounds. Perfect. You're cleared. Have a safe drive. David pulled through, back onto I-80. Normal highway, normal traffic, normal world. He was real again. Solid, actual. But he remembered the blue route. Remembered the other drivers still there. Still fading. Still driving endlessly on a highway made of forgotten people. He drives differently now, makes a point of mattering, of connecting, of being real to others in small ways, tips generously, helps stranded drivers, calls his kids, maintains relationships, builds weight, reality weight, the kind the scales measure. Because he knows the truth now. Existence isn't automatic. It's maintained by purpose, by connection, by mattering to someone even briefly. And if you fade, if you become functionally irrelevant, the weight stations will notice, will sort you, will send you to the blue route where ephemeral things drive until they're 0 ounces and become the road itself. The blue route is still there, still sorting, still consuming, and every truck that loses reality, that becomes less solid, less actual, less real, gets diverted, gets trapped, gets driven endlessly until they're pavement. Watch your weight, not the physical tonnage, the existential weight, the reality mass, the thing that makes you matter. Because the scales measure more than you think, and the blue route is always hungry for more drivers, more trucks, more ghosts to pave the highway that exists between real and unreal. David passed the weight station at 16 ounces. He got off at 12, the threshold. Most drivers don't get off at all. Asterisk story 9, the load that arrived before IT left. The delivery confirmation came through at 9:47 a.m. on March 3, 2024, confirming that Rachel Torres had successfully delivered 26,000 pounds of medical supplies to a hospital in Portland, Oregon. The problem was Rachel hadn't picked up the load yet. She was currently standing in a warehouse in Sacramento, looking at the pallets she was supposed to load, and her phone was showing a completed delivery that wouldn't happen for another 8 hours and 370 miles of driving. The warehouse manager looked at her phone, looked at his clipboard, looked at the pallets. This doesn't make sense. The GPS tracker says your truck is in Portland. The delivery was signed for. They scanned every box, but you're here, the cargo is here, and your truck is parked outside. Rachel walked outside to confirm her truck. A Freightliner M2 was there, exactly where she'd parked it. Empty trailer ready to load. She checked the GPS tracker herself. It showed her truck in 2 locations simultaneously, Sacramento Warehouse and Portland Hospital. Both signals strong, both accurate, both impossible. Her phone rang, hospital administrator. Ms. Torres, thank you for the delivery. Everything arrived in perfect condition. The surgical team is already using the supplies. Lives will be saved today because of your punctuality. Ma'am, I haven't delivered anything yet. I'm still in Sacramento. Pause, is this some kind of joke? I'm literally looking at your truck, the driver. You is in our loading dock right now, unloading the last pallet. Rachel put the administrator on hold, ran to her truck, climbed into the cab, turned on her dash cam. She kept it running continuously for insurance purposes. Rewound the footage to 9:47 a.m., 37 minutes ago. The camera showed her sitting in the driver's seat in traffic in Portland, Oregon, waiting at a red light 2 blocks from the hospital. She watched herself on camera check the mirror, scratch her nose, take a sip of coffee, normal driving behaviors. The timestamp was accurate. The location metadata was accurate. The footage was real. But Rachel had been in Sacramento at 9:47 a.m. She remembered it clearly. She'd been talking to the warehouse manager about loading procedures. She'd been standing exactly where she was standing now. She couldn't have been in both places. Unless she had been. Unless time had split. Unless the delivery had happened before the pickup because causality was breaking down and effect was preceding cause. She called the hospital back. I need you to do something. Go look at the driver unloading the medical supplies. Tell me what she looks like. She looks like, well, like the photo on your CDL. Rachel Torres, 5'6", black hair, scar on left forearm. That's you, isn't it? Check her ID. Ask her to show you her driver's license. Pause, background conversation. Then, she showed me her license. Rachel Maria Torres, same birth date as your file, same address, same CDL number. It's you. What's going on? Rachel hung up, got back in her truck, drove to Portland. The whole way she monitored the tracking. Her truck showed in Portland until 11:15 a.m. when the delivery completed. Then the Portland signal disappeared. Only the Sacramento signal remained, the truck she was actually driving. She arrived at the hospital at 6 p.m., drove to the loading dock. A nurse was there smoking a cigarette. Rachel approached her. Did a medical supply delivery arrive this morning, around 9:47 a.m.? Yeah, driver looked just like you. I remember thinking she looked familiar, like I'd seen her before. She unloaded everything, was very professional. Why? Can I see the delivery paperwork? The nurse took her inside. The receiving office had a signed manifest. Rachel's signature, her handwriting, but Rachel hadn't signed it, couldn't have signed it. She'd been 370 miles away when that signature was written. She looked at the signature closely. It was perfect, identical to her real signature, but there was something odd. The ink was slightly faded, like the signature was old, like it had been signed weeks ago and exposed to light and air, even though it was dated this morning. Can I see the delivered cargo? Rachel asked. The nurse led her to a storage room, boxes of medical supplies. Rachel checked the lot numbers against her manifest, the manifest for the cargo she hadn't loaded yet, still sitting in Sacramento. The numbers matched. These were the supplies she was supposed to pick up and deliver, but they'd already been delivered before she'd picked them up. She drove back to Sacramento, arrived at midnight. The warehouse was closed. She parked and tried to sleep, but her phone kept buzzing. Delivery notifications, all time-stamped in the future. Confirmations for loads she hadn't accepted yet. Receipts for cargo she hadn't hauled. Her truck's history log showed routes S. He hadn't driven, miles she hadn't accumulated, fuel stops she hadn't made. According to her digital records, Rachel Torres had been driving continuously for the last 72 hours. Multiple deliveries, multiple cities, overlapping routes, impossible schedules. She'd been in Los Angeles and Seattle simultaneously. Had delivered to Phoenix and Denver within the same hour. Had driven 1,800 miles in 6 hours. All of it documented, all of it signed, all of it impossible. She called her dispatcher. "Something's wrong with the system. I'm getting delivery confirmations for loads I haven't hauled." "Rachel, your performance has been exceptional lately. You're completing routes 30% faster than usual. Customers are thrilled. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." "I'm not doing anything. These deliveries aren't real." "The signatures are real. The GPS data is real. The customer confirmations are real. You're just experiencing time differently than usual. Some drivers report this. Temporal efficiency. You're delivering cargo before you consciously experience picking it up. It's a documented phenomenon, usually indicates exceptional focus and route optimization." "That's not a real thing." "It's in the company manual. Chapter 17, Temporal Logistics. When a driver achieves perfect efficiency, they begin operating slightly ahead of causality. Effect precedes cause. You deliver before you depart. It's rare but not unheard of. Congratulations. You're one of our elite drivers now." The call ended. Rachel grabbed her company manual from the glove box, flipped to Chapter 17. The pages were blank, completely blank. She flipped through the entire manual. Every page was empty. White paper, no text, no diagrams, nothing. Her phone buzzed. New delivery confirmation. She'd apparently just delivered construction materials to a site in Reno, Nevada. Timestamp 7 minutes ago, but she was in Sacramento, hadn't moved, hadn't driven anywhere. She turned on her dash cam, rewound to 7 minutes ago. The camera showed her driving on I-80 East, approaching Reno, delivering construction materials. She watched her cell phone camera park at the site, get out, direct the unloading, sign the manifest, all of it clear, all of it documented, all of it happening while she was simultaneously sitting in a Sacramento parking lot watching the footage. Rachel realized something horrifying. Her future self was driving, completing deliveries, operating independently. And then those completed routes were collapsing backward into her past, becoming history, becoming what had already happened even though she hadn't experienced it yet. She was living her life out of order, effect before cause, future before past, and she had no control over it. Her phone showed her schedule for the next week. 17 deliveries, all marked complete, all signed, all delivered, but it was currently March 3rd. The deliveries were dated through March 10th. She'd completed a week of work she hadn't done yet. What happened to those 7 days? If the deliveries were already complete, did she still have to drive them? Would she experience them? Or would she skip ahead, lose a week of her life because her future self had already lived it? She tried to refuse a load, called dispatch. "I'm not taking any more jobs. I need time to figure this out." "You already took it. You're delivering it right now. Check your tracker." She checked. Her truck was on I-5 North, approaching Redding, hauling agricultural equipment. She was driving somewhere she hadn't decided to go, hauling cargo she hadn't agreed to haul, living a life her future self had already completed. Days blurred. She'd be in one location, then suddenly the dash cam would show hours of driving she didn't remember. Her logbook filled itself. Her routes completed themselves. She was a passenger in her own life, watching her future self drive while her present self skipped forward erratically. March 10th arrived. All the deliveries were complete. Rachel checked her bank account. She'd been paid for all of them. Thousands of dollars, legitimate earnings. The cargo had been real, the deliveries real. She'd done the work, her future self had done it. But she had no memory of most of it, just fragmentary moments. Snapshots of roads, glimpses of loading docks. She tried to stop, tried to quit, wrote a resignation letter. But when she checked her email, she'd already sent the letter. 3 days ago, dispatch had responded. Resignation denied. Contract requires 3 months' notice. You've already completed 2 weeks of that notice period, 10 weeks remaining. She hadn't written the letter until today, but it was dated March 7th. Her future self had written it, had been planning to quit, was living ahead of her, making decisions, driving routes, completing the contract. Rachel stopped checking her tracker, stopped looking at confirmations, stopped trying to understand. ND, she just drove when her body told her to drive, stopped when she felt exhausted. Let her future self handle the logistics. Let the temporal efficiency continue. But she noticed something disturbing. The gaps were getting longer. She'd lose entire days now. Would be in Sacramento on Monday morning and Denver on Monday afternoon with no memory of the drive. Would be delivering cargo she never remembered loading. Would be signing manifests in handwriting that looked like hers but felt foreign. Her future self was taking over. The version of Rachel Torres that existed ahead of causality was becoming dominant. Present Rachel was fading, becoming the shadow, becoming the echo of a life her future self was living more efficiently, more completely, more actually. She saw herself sometimes, passed her own truck going the opposite direction, made eye contact with herself. Future Rachel looked tired, older, but confident, like she'd accepted the temporal split, like she was comfortable existing ahead of her own causality. Present Rachel tried to wave. Future Rachel didn't respond, didn't acknowledge her. Like present Rachel was the ghost, the unreal one, the version that hadn't happened yet and maybe never would. The deliveries continued, months ahead now. Rachel's tracker showed routes through June, July, August. All complete, all delivered. She was living in March but working in September. Her future self was driving half a year ahead, collapsing timelines, pulling the future into the past. Present Rachel stopped existing for hours at a time. Then days. She'd blink and lose a week, blink again and lose a month. Time was skipping, jumping. She was becoming discontinuous, existing only in the gaps between her future self's efficiency. Her last continuous memory was September 14th. She was delivering electronics to a warehouse in Chicago. She remembered parking, remembered opening the trailer. Then nothing, just absence, a void of time. She became aware again on December 3rd. 4 months later, she was in Seattle, had no memory of how she got there. Checked her phone. Hundreds of completed deliveries, thousands of miles, months of work done by her future self while present Rachel didn't exist. The dispatcher called. "Rachel, your contract is complete. Excellent work. You've been our most efficient driver. We'd like to offer you a permanent position with expanded territory." "I don't remember the last 4 months." "That's normal. Temporal efficiency causes memory compression. The deliveries happened. You drove them. You just experienced them in collapsed time. From your subjective perspective, it feels like skipping. But objectively, you were present. Your future self was you, just ahead of your conscious experience." "Where does it end? When do I catch up to my future self?" Pause. You don't. The temporal gap keeps expanding. Eventually, your future self will be decades ahead. completing your entire career in advance. You'll experience your life in brief flashes, moments of continuity separated by years of work done by your temporal duplicate. It's efficient, profitable. The company values efficiency. Rachel hung up. She understood now. She'd become a temporal loop, her future self driving eternally ahead, collapsing her entire life into completed deliveries. Present Rachel experiencing only fragments, brief moments of consciousness between long stretches of work she'd never remember doing. She was becoming her job, becoming the truck, becoming the route, her identity dissolving into pure efficiency, pure function. A driver with no present, only future, all of it collapsing backward into a past she couldn't remember living. The last time she was fully conscious was January 7th, 2025. She was in a rest stop bathroom in Oklahoma, looked in the mirror. Her face was older, gray hair, wrinkles. She'd aged years in the month since she noticed the temporal split. Her future self had lived those years, experienced them, worn them on present Rachel's body. She tried to write a note, warn others, tell drivers about temporal efficiency, about delivering before departing, about losing your life to your future self. But when she looked at the note, it was already written, had been written years ago by future Rachel, warning present Rachel, the loop complete. The note said, "You will deliver before you depart, you will work before you agree, you will age before you live. This is the efficiency. This is the cost. Your future self is driving now. She's always been driving. You're just the memory of her." The echo, the brief moment of continuity in a life lived ahead of itself. Stop looking for yourself. You already found you. Decades from now, still driving, still delivering, still collapsing time into completed routes. Present Rachel dissolved, became discontinuous, became fragments, moments, brief flashes of awareness scattered across decades of work done by future Rachel W. Ho existed always ahead, always completing, always delivering before departing, hauling cargo that arrived before it left, driving routes that finished before they began. The truck drives itself now, or future Rachel drives it, or they're the same thing. Time has collapsed entirely for Rachel Torres. She exists as pure efficiency, pure temporal function, a driver who delivers eternally, experiencing none of it, remembering nothing, just a name on manifest spanning decades, all signed in advance, all completed before started. If you see a truck with no driver, or a driver who looks translucent, or a delivery confirmation before you've shipped the cargo, you've encountered temporal efficiency. Someone's future self completing work their present self hasn't agreed to yet. Someone dissolving into their job, becoming the root, losing their present to their future. Rachel Torres is still driving, will always be driving, has always been driving, delivering loads that arrive before they leave, living a life that completes before it begins, aging in the future while fading in the present. The most efficient driver the company ever had, because she finished her entire career before she started. Asterisk Story 10, the final mile that never ends. The GPS said I had 1 mile remaining to my destination, and that was 468 miles ago. My name is Anthony Fletcher. I've been driving this final mile for 3 weeks straight, and I'm beginning to understand that I will never arrive because arrival isn't the point. The road itself is the destination, and the final mile is infinite. I picked up the load in Miami, server equipment, standard IT hardware bound for a data center in Atlanta. 643 miles, 10-hour drive. I'd done it 100 times. The cargo was normal. The manifest was normal. The route was normal. Everything was normal until mile 642. That's when the GPS said, 1 mile to destination. I drove, the mile marker changed. 6:43, 6:44, 6:45, but the GPS kept saying 1 mile to destination. The distance wasn't decreasing, it was fixed, permanent, 1 mile remaining, forever. I checked my odometer. It was increasing normally, hundreds of miles accumulating. But the GPS said 1 mile to destination, like I was trapped in an infinite approach, an asymptote, getting closer without ever reaching. I've been driving for 3 weeks now, haven't stopped except for fuel, haven't slept, can't sleep. Every time I try, I hear the GPS voice, 1 mile to destination, continue on current route. The command is always the same, never changes, never updates, just 1 mile to destination, repeated endlessly. The landscape has become abstract. I'm still on I-75 North according to the GPS, but the road doesn't match reality anymore. I pass the same cities over and over. Atlanta, Macon, Valdosta, back to Miami, then Atlanta again, looping, but the GPS insists I'm making progress. 1 mile to destination, always 1 mile, never less, never more. I've encountered other drivers. They're all doing the same thing. Final mile, final approach, infinitely close to destination but never arriving. We pass each other, make eye contact, no words necessary, we all understand, we're all trapped in the same asymptotic hell. One driver, he looked ancient, emaciated, held up a sign as I passed. Day 2847. He'd been driving the final mile for 7 years, still 1 mile to destination, still approaching, still never arriving. The cargo in my trailer has changed. I checked it once, maybe 12 days ago. The server equipment was gone. In its place, packaging, empty boxes, nothing inside, like the cargo itself had given up, had dissolved into absence because it would never be delivered, never be opened, never be used. My truck is aging rapidly, rust forming, paint flaking. The engine sounds wrong, grinds and knocks that shouldn't be there, but it keeps running, keeps moving. Because stopping means ceasing to approach, means losing the final mile, means being stuck at 2 miles or 3 miles or some other distance that's even worse. 1 mile to destination is the closest you can be without arriving. It's the optimal failure, the perfect incompletion. We're all trapped here because we're so close, because we can see the destination, can imagine reaching it, but never will. I've tried turning around, driving back to Miami, refusing the delivery, but the roads won't let me. Every turn leads back to I-75 North. Every exit ramp loops to the same highway. The final mile has become all miles. Every road is the approach. Every direction is toward the destination I'll never reach. The GPS voice has started changing. It used to be robotic, generic. Now it sounds personal, sounds like my voice. Anthony, 1 mile to destination. Keep driving, you're almost there. Just 1 more mile, you're so close. Keep going, 1 mile to destination. But I know the truth, TH. E-mile isn't a measure of distance. It's a measure of state. I'm 1 mile from completion, 1 mile from finishing, 1 mile from rest. And that mile is infinite because completion is impossible. Finishing doesn't exist. Rest is a lie. There's only approach, only the final mile, only the endless drive toward a destination that recedes at the exact speed I approach. I see the data center sometimes, in the distance. Clear as day, the building, the parking lot, the loading dock. I can see workers moving inside, see other trucks delivering, see the normal world where arrival,